You can't ask the delivery to people to change their hours of delivery for you in the morning, more in the morning as opposed to the evening.
I don't know. Well, sure, yeah. I don't know how that would help though.
Sorry. Because the reason why I'm asking that, you have residents and you have people in the evening.
Sure.
So that's why I was asking that.
The problem is that we don't have any storage space in which to unload the delivery into. So when the delivery comes in, it needs to go right on the selling floor. The store is open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So if we had to unload the truck, it would have to go on the floor. We wouldn't be able to shop. So we have to take the delivery later in the evening to be able to just bring it out when it's slower. And they process the freight overnight. They work in the building all night.
And it is only one truck a day.
Yeah.
It's one truck a day.
How many parking spaces is it taking? Would it be taking?
Well, right now this is not designated space and it's just an open lane.
Right.
The vehicle, I believe it's a 48-foot would be the trailer length. So something like 55, 60 feet long, depending on the delivery.
Wait, you said there was only one truck?
A day. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, ask that question.
It's something that's not making sense. I'm not understanding something. So it's one delivery a day?
So they made a request to DOT for truck loading and unloading from 6 to 10. DOT did an evaluation, and obviously the only thing that they will do is during the day from 8 to 6. So they approved that and sent them a letter and said, well, this time you have to go to the community board for the extended hours. So they can do with less delivery time during the day and offset it to later in the evening if DOT.
And how long does it take to unload this truck and stop the store? 4 hours?
No.
Well, no,
To unload the truck itself is probably on average between 30 and 60 minutes.
And this truck is the same supplier every day?
But there would be 10 pallets.
And that's an approximate load every day?
An hour at the
It's
most.
about 10 to 12 pallets a day, yeah. And then they have to be taken in and down.
An hour per day? Or
Now for the delivery.
for each one?
Yeah, there's only one delivery
There's
a
only
day.
one delivery.
Is it your
So
own
it's an hour a day.
delivery truck, this supplier, or is it your
No,
own?
It's a outside company that we contract through our local warehouse in New Jersey. So it's not owned by our company.
Right. But because, I'm sorry, because Bed Bath & Beyond, and in this case Face Value and Beyond, has such, buying power, can't you dictate what time the truck comes?
Right.
We can, but what other time would be advisable? We can't, if we're open from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. and we can't unload the truck into the space physically, we have to take it as late as possible because the stocking foods are overnight.
There isn't
And right
room,
now,
there isn't room to take 10 pallets into the store to break them down.
While the store's open.
Right, exactly.
Yes, while the store's open, that's the key phrase there.
It's
and
not
they are
really so small.
trying to take it on the earlier side. So they're right now they're presently about 8 o'clock is when the truck is coming 8 p.m.
Let me ask one question before Ken has been waiting. The alignment of the bus stop on Broadway, can you indicate where on that block it is?
It's right there. It's right in front of our main entrance. Right in front of our main entrance.
So would you say it's mid-block, more to the south, more to the north? I'm trying to picture it now, I'm forgetting.
It's more than
No, north and north, yeah.
Would it help you if it was moved further south?
As long as they dedicated that area for deliveries, yes. We could use Broadway to deliver. That's the answer, but
Yes.
to physically move the bus stop. But it would have to be dedicated for
Yes, yes,
unloading.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes, that would help.
That would be preferable, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yes.
If we could get
All
that.
right, Ken, you've been waiting.
So it sounds like you don't need it. You don't need that loading zone during the day.
We don't, as long as we can use it at night.
As long as what?
As long as we can use it in the evening. Then no, because we only do get the one truck. The trucks we get during the day are small van type, it might be a one package, like a FedEx Express type thing might come during the day. So that's really it. All of our deliveries come consolidated on one truck.
And does anybody else need that loading zone during the day that you know of? Is it used by any other?
No, other than us, no. Nobody else.
And when the truck is there, you said that the lift runs. Does that mean the engine is running?
No, not there. It's the lift on the back that lifts the product down onto the ground.
So they turn off the engine?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So the noise is just the hydraulic lift.
And the pallet jack.
And the,
You don't do
and the rolling of
Yeah,
the.
you don't
right.
even hardly hear that. They do that at Whole Foods. I have one
Go
other
ahead,
question
Isaac.
when Ken gets through. Go ahead, Ken.
No, I think I'm finished.
Folks, we'll get to you in a second, huh? Promise.
Just, why isn't, since you're in the store, since you have guys, people working in the store all night, why you can't have the truck come after 10 p.m. at night? When there's hardly no traffic on the street at night.
I can make even more noise on a residential street.
Yeah, but they're only there for 30 minutes though, they say.
I think
You'd
it's
still
fine
get
to
a
be
ticket.
respectful. We do.
After 10 p.m., you don't get no tickets. They just like Whole Foods, and comparing you to Whole Foods, but I'm just saying when they deliver them.
But the reason they're giving them tickets is because it isn't. it's a
Right,
bus stop.
you still have to be on Broadway.
So the reason they're getting the tickets is they're actually obstructing the bus stop.
Right.
So
The bus
that's
stop.
why, so I don't, you know,
That's
at 10
a
o'clock
whole
at night,
other
12
story.
o'clock
Bus
at
stop,
night,
that's-
the bus stop is still, the buses are still coming in. And they would still get ticketed.
The bus stop, yeah, I mean, you know, if they're out there.
Next north stop is from there. See if it would be a problem to move it slightly south. I don't think that would happen soon, so, yes, sir.
Store that was there for 25 years moves huge amounts of material in and out, much more than it sounds like Bed Bath & Beyond is going to do. Why is it so much trouble for Bed Bath & Beyond? I don't understand. Those trucks would unload on Broadway routinely during the day.
Which we've been doing, we've had to do that, but we've been getting ticketed.
Why are you getting tickets when they do? Why did they
I'm not
manage to
the
do it without any trouble?
I can only tell you what we're experiencing.
When you,
Was the bus stop there? Was the bus stop there?
That's right.
Yes, the bus stop is not there. It was
The
there.
bus stop has been there though, that hasn't been, it's been
you must have known when you took the space, what limitations you would face. Or did you didn't just stumble in and say, oh my gosh, we can't park our trucks here, we can't unload our stuff?
No, but we did, we knew there were restrictions. We're just trying to make it best use of those restrictions. We're trying to find a way around those issues by taking them later in the evening.
By parking on 90th Street rather than on Broadway, which has been the practice so far.
Well, Broadway is because we're getting ticketed. We're trying to
Well, I
avoid
don't
that.
know.
Did the
I don't
food
think
store-
Why that's happening. I don't think that was a problem for the market.
We never heard that, Rich.
Could I
Could
get-
the food
could I
store have
get
gotten
your name?
smaller deliveries?
Could I get your name?
They tend to, they get those frozen foods for one thing.
So are they just getting a smaller,
It wasn't,
a higher number of smaller deliveries throughout the day
it's possible.
instead of?
I
They
don't know
got
that
60-foot
history.
trailers on some days.
Could I get
What's your name, sir?
William Ruffer, R-U-F-F-E-R, resident of 250 West 90th Street.
Sir, you want to speak? Yeah, please.
So, first of all,
Name too?
camp also. I find it hard to believe that the company like Bed Bath & Beyond took this, or whatever the corporate name is, took this space on the long shot chance that they'll get a zoning or parking change. And that's the only way that it would work. That just doesn't make sense to me. I don't believe it, frankly.
I don't think it's the only way that it will work. We're just trying to find a way that makes it work more efficiently for us.
Find another way.
Have you considered modifying the interior to allow easier access for some of these pallets?
Well, a lot of the problem is the freight elevator that was already there restricts the entrance from the two delivery points on the outside of the
Do you have a
building.
long lease here?
Yeah.
Would it make sense to put in a new freight elevator or modify the elevator? I don't know. I'm not spending your money for you. I'm just asking.
How much are the tickets?
They're
For one truck a day.
165.
I don't think we want to encourage
No, that's not.
parking in a bus lane.
Have you talked to the people? They know you have a business there. Have you talked to the people, the ticket agents about, have you had a discussion with them?
Yeah.
And what was their,
Their response was that we couldn't unload on 90th because those spots were not designated for us after the time that we wanted to take the truck. If we use the bus stop, we will continue to get ticketed. They said the only way we could unload was to double park down the street. But
That's a great thing for them to say.
that's the answer. Out of 3 separate agents, I'll tell you, 3 different times I said, why are you ticketing us?
Right.
You know, we're just unloading, and they, 3 different people told me, pull ahead to the end of the street and double park,
Right.
and they will not ticket you.
What time of day are most of these tickets issued?
The time I spoke to them was during the day, so it was during our store opening process, so it was slightly different. We were taking a number of trucks during the day, while we tried to get the store open, but that was 3 different things.
I just want to raise the general point that double parking I see as a much bigger issue than anything else. And I really appreciate that you guys have come out and talked to us, trying to find a solution. And I know there are concerns and issues, but I think the idea that we can talk through it and try to figure out a solution is a lot better than double parking, which I think is a real safety issue. And I know it's happening a lot and needs to be addressed.
Traffic.
Ken?
I just wanted to find out, why is this controversial? Why shouldn't we just approve an extra 2 hours?
4 hours.
Can we speak up?
Yeah, we're gonna get everybody.
What?
4 hours.
Really?
7 days a week.
Okay.
7 days a week.
Yeah,
And we're extending
Go
the
ahead.
That's another
I lived in
change.
the
You're
Amsonia.
asking for 7 days, and right now it's
5 days a week.
now
We're
it's,
trying to extend it to 6 days.
what is it currently?
It's hi, my name is Jack Carpenter.
Hang on, I'm just establishing
sorry,
a
okay.
point of factor. It's currently
6 days.
6 days a week, you're asking for 7.
Yeah, the sign says no parking 8 to 6 except Sunday.
And why do you need 7?
Does it say what the regulation is after 6?
Why do you need?
I think it's just
why do you
open.
need 7?
Is this alternate sign?
Do you want me to?
That's what I wanna know.
Do you want me to put it on the screen? I think it's good to see.
Which is alternate sign.
Yeah, it's a no parking 8 to 6 except Sunday. That's all it says.
Mark?
What's down Broadway from what would otherwise be the double park area? Is it metered parking or is it alternate side or what?
It's
Metered.
It's metered.
It's metered down
Is
there.
that the answer?
What's,
A loading zone there? I mean, you know me, I'm always in favor of loading zones
Yes.
everywhere because it's good for business. And
it's
it doesn't
How
take
many
away.
feet does that represent, do you know?
how many meters?
No,
Well-
how many meters worth?
It-
That'll give us an idea of feet.
Well, you basically probably are talking about the rest of the block because the bus stop is going to be about 100 feet now, right? 80 to 100 feet. And the block is 200 feet long on the avenue.
I'm assuming that the bus stop is one of the far side bus stops, which is what MTA does now, so I'm assuming it's
Yes, it is a far side bus
so
stop.
it's on the
Exactly right.
far side, so it's closer to,
80 feet? Because it's going to go all the way to the corner.
they don't use Arctics on that route, so the bus stop may be in the 60 feet area.
Okay, so another 60 feet for a loading zone. That would replace metered parking.
And a block is
not
200
alternate
feet,
signs.
so that would leave room.
So actually,
Photograph would be helpful.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, we have maybe a point of information.
Yeah, and actually, it's seemingly longer, I don't think it's 60, I think it's either anywhere between 80 and 100.
We can
And then
find
there's
out.
a fire hydrant, and then there is the regular meter park.
And do you recall how many meters there are?
We just went past it and it
I believe there's
was
4.
probably about 4 or
I believe
5.
it's 4.
It would be a mini meter now anyway.
Or
Yeah, it's a muni meter.
you have it, these might be. How big is are these trailers that you get?
42.
Okay, yes, you had your hand up, sir.
I did, yeah. Hi. My name is Jack Carpenter. My wife and I recently moved into the building. Honestly, we can talk about being so quiet. It's already loud. We already are feeling the effects of the noise. And I feel like, stores shouldn't open under the guise of improving the community and then take away the quality of life. My wife and I are planning on expanding our family, and then bringing a stroller through a loading zone with workers yelling is going to make things very difficult. And the noise created from this change creates significant disturbance for everyone in the block.
Yeah.
And we're strongly against it.
That's certainly more than 40 feet.
But how long is the truck?
42.
42.
Which is how many car lengths? That's
My name is Chris Rogers. West 90th.
I think they allow about 11 feet.
Speak up, please.
I have a business here. The room is actually right above one of their delivery entrances. We also have another delivery entrance that you can make everywhere on Broadway. Yep. That's right. Your trucks right now have arrived way out of the hours of common practice. They respectfully arrive at 1 in the morning, 12 midnight, 6 a.m. They don't follow, from my opinion, any we're up to test of I think you guys call it like a noise mitigation plan, which probably eliminate any noise from, what's that?
I can tell you those in the archive.
Do you see a name on the trucks?
I can close my window and I can watch them. And I'm down our top tier manager, Larry, very nice gentleman. I say suggested, last night you woke up my son a few times.
I apologize, but we don't have a manager named Larry.
You do. Because last week told me, I can, if you want to show me pictures of all the managers, I can show you.
Can you tell us what name is on these the trucks that are delivering to you?
The company, it's New West Logistics is the carrier that we use. The trucks do not always say New West Logistics. The trailers in some cases are leased. Some of them say Idea Lease, some of them say, I forget some of the other names, but I can tell you without a doubt, we get one truck per day and it comes at 8:30. It comes maybe 9, maybe 8. There's.
Can you respect it up to there? I'll just finish what I have to say.
I just want to know the name on the truck. So go ahead, please.
The trucks up here arrive very late, and
What's late? You said very late. What's
Midnight,
late?
1 in the morning, it's happened, 6 a.m. it's happened. And they use with plastic bins, which they roll. I think it's pretty safe, but I'd suggest you guys put like a rubber in the store for them to roll onto, because that noise vibrates actually up into the apartments.
We've heard that from other places.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to suggest that there's ways to probably improve on the current plan that they have. It is noisy, to this gentleman's point. And then
Putting it on Broadway would be even better, right?
we went to the first gentleman who spoke ahead of me. The operation of Broadway for probably 20 years, a couple decades. The place across the street for Phoenix, that's tight knit. I mean, you go in there shoulder to shoulder shelving, and making the New Yorkers kind of adjust in the store to do commerce as opposed to making like the residents who are the vacancy. That's a better thing to go for. I think New Yorkers in general would deal with your extra items in working hours in the store and in the middle of the night, trying to find the best place sleep. That's all. Sorry, I interrupted you, man.
Let's get this gentleman.
My name is Jonathan Arkins. I live in 250 West 90th Street, have for many years. Number of things, as I think I mentioned before, the bus stop has been there for the entire time I've been there. It has not moved. The trucks have these metal lift gates that when they drop them down, they don't drop them down gently. It sounds like gunshots, which is very, very loud.
About what time do these trucks typically come?
Well, to the lady's point, I cannot speak knowledgeably about whether it's their truck or not their truck because they are unmarked. I have photographs of them. They're a white truck. I can't. There's lots of them. To her point as well, Broadway is the correct place for loading. I understand Commerce needs to run their store. But what the gentleman didn't tell you, and I'm sure you know this already because you're a CB7, is that they've just moved in, right? This place was a food emporium. They gutted the whole place. And had they but had you had a little foresight, you would have thought about this, and you would have maybe taken a little bit from sales shelves just in the back right corner and used it for something so that the cost of your misplanning is not visited upon the residents in the area. My two daughters, 8 and 4, sleep in a room that faces where your trucks, you would like to unload your trucks.
You guys mind moving?
Rejected against it, and I would like you to reject the proposal. In particular, because basically for one truck per day, we are being asked to lose, to have House Street basically be a truck loading zone for 96 hours of the week, rather than, that's more than some of the people who work for me work. 96 hours a week is crazy, especially since it's for one truck a day.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, sir.
Bruno Mejean, also live in the building. I have for 25 years. And I already noticed a change of the signage on the street, on 90th Street, allowing loading, which was not allowed before, by the way. The 8 to 6 was no parking period, and now it's allowed for deliveries. So that's an improvement for you. Because in the past, the previous store, the Food Emporium, did not require any of these special arrangements. So how did it work for them for 20 years?
Wait,
It kind of worked.
wait, that sign was changed during the construction. It was there the way it is now.
So
Prior
that's,
to.
so that's not
Just one
correct.
one at a time. One at a time. during the time.
Correct. I know, I read the sign, I parked there on Sundays, okay, so I know it's not the case.
It didn't say trip parking, it said 8 to 6, it was the same hours.
Yeah, but now it says deliveries, now it allows for truck deliveries, it did not before, okay? So that's a fact.
So what,
But that's not the point. What I'm trying to, support you for your efforts, nonetheless. So I think we should aim at the solution on Broadway. That's the answer. 8 to 6 is perfectly fine to that. And if it's one truck a day, we should be able to accommodate that.
Let's get a question of fact answered, since a lot of people are sort of in favor of a Broadway solution to this. Would 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. with a loading zone on Broadway suffice for you?
I would still say
You need later.
Yeah, they need later.
Why would it even be 8 to 6? Do you mean on 90th Street, 8
No,
to
I mean on
6?
Broadway.
on Broadway? Broadway.
What about 6 to 10 on Broadway?
We have residents.
On Broadway.
On Broadway.
Yeah, we have residents.
Building is on
Broadway
and 90.
It's on like,
Yeah.
Buildings
well, they
right
have
here.
to have deliveries on some side, right?
Yeah.
Yes, there's not at 9.
Yeah, go ahead.
Our apartment, my apartment is right on here. It's right up here, right above here. And there is a living room space and 2 bedrooms.
Broadway.
Is it
Our kids-
up here?
Yeah, right up there. And we're actually relatively high up. And we heard the food emporium every night.
They would come at night. What time would they come at night?
Well, usually it was the garbage pickup for them at night. So they did the deliveries during probably until like 6 p.m. at night, and then the garbage delivery. So I can only say to you that when you deliver beyond 6 o'clock, it creates a huge amount of noise for the residents. And in these bedrooms up there and the living rooms up there, and it just reverberates up. So that's why I would really suggest that the cutoff needs to be 6 p.m. because we already have to fight for the garbage trucks at night.
What was your name?
No, that's not gonna,
Martina.
that's not gonna do it, Isaac, because there's noise on
They
Broadway.
don't want it anywhere after 6 o'clock.
After 6.
Well,
That's
could you
what
keep
they're
it from 8?
Sir?
Yeah, just one question. There's nothing that prohibit other deliverers from using that spot at any hour of the day. And
Oh, during those hours.
So there will be no guarantee there will be one truck per night, right?
Well, what other deliverers are there?
In your
And what are they doing now? Are they just not delivering because there's not?
Or in the stores up along Broadway. Anybody can do it.
Bed, Bath,
And frankly, I don't think
is
you
right
can
there.
guarantee that there will be one truck a night. I'm skeptical about that.
Well, if you put a loading zone on Broadway, there could well be other trucks using it. That's
Wherever you carry it.
Well, even where it is now, we
Right.
don't know that there aren't
Right.
other trucks
Right.
using that spot. Sir?
Yeah, Sean McDermott. I don't think on Broadway is the issue, I think it's the hour of the day.
Right,
That's really
that's
what we all keep coming back to.
Right.
And so I think we'd really appreciate it if you could find a way to do this during regular business hours. I think that's
Between
really
8
what
and
we're saying.
6.
And there's various ways you can do it. So you've got a cost now because you're getting tickets. I don't know how much the expansion of the freight elevator would cost. It's a capital expense. You depreciate it over years. It's not an immediate expense to you. Maybe you could look into that and get the delivery by 6 p.m.
Did you ask the people who deliver for you out late at night, can't they deliver earlier in the day? Have you talked to them?
It's not about the delivery, it's about taking it into the store. It has nothing to do with it, right? With the operation of space, you'd have to put the skid on the floor. Essentially blocking aisles, like you would not be able to walk.
And so what do you do if you get them at 10 o'clock at night?
There's nobody.
You just
The store's closed.
Yeah,
Store's closed.
but you're just unpacking directly onto the shelves?
Then they force it all out to the floor.
Mhm.
As the skids come down, they break them down.
Do you have a storeroom?
A very small one.
Have you investigated the possibility of, instead of getting the one big truck, which takes a long time to unload, a few smaller trucks? Is that an option for you? Maybe some earlier where you would not have this massive blocking of aisles? Like one at 2 p.m., one at 4 p.m., one at 6. Would that be the same? Or is that more costly? I mean, it might
It
save you
would
the.
be significant cost. Like in excess of what the tickets are currently. By quite a bit.
Someone had their hand up over here. Yes, ma'am.
So I just have a question. I'm clear that you're looking to extend the
Your
hours.
name?
Michelle Carpenter. You're looking to extend the hours. Are you looking to extend the actual physical space that you're taking up as well? Are you looking to go to West End with your parking? How far along the block are you looking to expand?
I just
In terms
know
of-
that.
Just the time, okay.
Just
I
the
know
time.
there.
Just the time.
Also, I think it should be 8 to 6, which is reasonable.
I just want everyone to know that normally, we're fortunate to have a representative from City Department of Transportation at almost all of our meetings. Just tonight, when we really, really could have used her for some things, she could not come. But I think some of these issues are issues that we're gonna have to discuss with DOT to see what is possible and what is not.
But it's not a DOT issue.
Well, it is if you want something on Broadway, and if you want to
But-
change hours, that's all DOT.
Yeah, but the
Parking is-
concern isn't DOT, because the concern is that they want to unload after
Well,
10
there's
o'clock at
There's a
night.
business plan here too, of course.
No, after
Well,
6.
Well, what time?
After 6.
That's the most busiest
They want to
time.
move it from 6 to 10. 10 it ends.
After 6.
Stores up until.
So if it's a noise issue and we're moving it to Broadway, if we made it 6 to 8, would that satisfy the issue? If it's noisy for 2 hours, but from 6 to 8 instead of, you know, 8 to 10?
Why should the residents be penalized?
Because I lived in that neighborhood
68
when
ain't
no
bad.
one would take these stores, and it was a really scary place. I used to walk through Central Park at 4 o'clock in the morning after closing the bar. I was working my way through school. Like a listen,
Let him finish, please.
$100,000 investment.
Let him finish, please.
And your investment will be worth a whole lot less if all those storefronts are vacant because no one will take them. Take them. I don't think it's irrelevant. I think that we all have to make, and I'm not saying that, I'm not advocating this at 10 o'clock, but I think that the balance we need to strike has to include accommodating our businesses so that our storefronts don't stay open, so both, and I mean vacant.
Business
For
can
months on
accommodate itself with a measly $165 a day payment of tickets.
But that doesn't solve the issue. That means we're blocking a bus lane. It's not, yeah, we don't want to encourage them to block the bus lane.
Question, could you do 8 o'clock? You know, how negotiable are you at 10 p.m.?
How, yeah, I mean, are the aisles flooded with people between 8
Yeah,
and 10
I
p.m.?
don't think 8 o'clock it really levels off.
It's better than 6.
Better than 6.
Well, I'd like to see the tickets.
How about nine?
Right there, I've never seen a ticket initially in the truck. But I mean, to be honest, I've never even seen the truck.
It's not a matter of tickets, though. The tickets are irrelevant. The issue is if they're parking in a bus stop, we don't want that. That's not something we want to encourage, whether or not they're getting tickets, whether or not it's a cost of doing business. That's just a behavior that's not something we want to encourage.
Many folks who use the M104 bus are.
That's an
elderly
option.
or
We could talk about
have
doing that,
stairway
but we
issues.
still
We
have
don't
the
want
same
that
issue.
blocked.
If we move the bus stop, are they unloading the truck? What time are they unloading the truck? It's a noise issue.
Right, it's
And
annoying, right.
we're dealing with a noise issue. It's not a DOT issue. It's not nothing else is relevant. It's a matter of what time they're unloading and whether it's an issue with noise for your.
First on Broadway, with big trucks all day long, in typical business hours. You're talking about
So basically what you guys are saying is that, you know, obviously you don't want the noise at all, but if the noise is between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., you'll deal with it. If it's between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m.,
No, that's still
that's,
can't even talk in the assessment.
it's one truck unloading. Is that?
Why can't that truck live between 8 and 6?
I think we heard the answer to that one about blocking the aisle. Somebody else had their, yes, ma'am.
You would ask a really good question, and that is, I think there needs to be more exploration of why they can't do several smaller trucks during that wide gap time. Before 6 p.m. I mean, give us a good reason why they can't do that.
Cost. It's they said it's prohibitive cost. Sir?
Yeah.
I'm very sensitive to the notion of like the difference between one shipment and multiple shipment. I think this gentleman here is precisely correct. No one here, and please tell me if I'm speaking out of school, no one's advocating for the removal of 8 till 6. What we're saying is there is a building that has been built that has a certain amount of square footage within it, and it's quite. Do you know how many square feet this building is? How much space do you have there? 20,000 square feet.
10,000 over 2 floors.
10,000 over 2 floors. There is 10,000 square feet on that first floor and 20,000 square feet on this, 10,000 underneath. They just built this out. Now, they did it relatively quickly, although for a lot of us, hearing that banging in the lobby was a nightmare for the number of months that we heard, but we sucked it up because we're big people, right? But at the end of the day, you're asking to check. The question is, do we change the hours, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.? Do we move it, whether we move it on 90th or Broadway, or whether we move the bus stop, etc.? The question is hours. And the answer is the same. You're asking the people who live, who make that neighborhood what it is, in conjunction with the economics of commerce. I get that. But you're asking the people that live there with their children and others to go beyond 6 p.m. into the 8 p.m. hours to accommodate poor planning, rather than saying, guys, take 500 of your 10,000 square feet there, take whatever after a particular time, say 4 p.m., you shut off the section that sells beer. Right? Don't shut the section off that sells beer. You don't sell beer. You've got to
No, I wish we did.
But either way, shut something off and use that space. That is you guys addressing your problem rather than us fixing your problem. And see the difference?
Is the loudest part of the delivery the rolling of the dollies, the actual operation of the freight elevator? What is the noisiest part of this procedure?
I'll let other people answer. I hate that trailer coming down. The moving of the trolleys are terrible.
Yes.
Then there's,
Do they
you know,
beep? Are they the ones that
the trucks beep when they back up. It's
Back up.
terrible as well. But the so that's pretty bad, right?
There's yelling. I mean,
There's all the
any
yelling in this
moving
community.
company, you're gonna have people going, hey, put that over here, put that there, and you can hear it from your living room door, you know?
Look,
During the day, you expect to be living in New York City, but
Look.
at 10 o'clock at night, it's
You did that really well. You're hired.
Oh, man.
You can't. You know, this. I just want to say something. I don't mean to go ahead. There's no way you're going to get around the noise. You can try to make it the best way that you can in your neighborhood. Now, where I live at, yours is a piece of cake. I have kids and I have dogs doing supper time from 6 until 9 o'clock, right in the back of a park where I live at. And I like the neighborhood where I live at, you know, but I don't know how much noise that we can try to work or try to get around it. I mean, you know, we could try to, like, I'm with Andrew. We need to have Colleen here to talk about it. The other thing is, personally, I probably would go down to the parking commission and find out about the ticket situation. I wouldn't talk to the agents no more until we come up with an agreement here. I would go downtown and
we don't want them
just have
parking in the bus
have
stop.
have a conversation about, because this, if they haven't been ticketed, and he brought up a good point. I don't know if they were ticketing food employment, they were there for 20 years, and Bed Bath & Beyond, you know, just to see where you stand on that until we come up with another solution.
Folks, those of you who live in this building, do you recall the 60-foot or 40-foot trailers from Food Emporium unloading on Broadway or only on 90th Street? Do you recall? Broadway. So they were in the bus stop as well. So they were likely getting ticketed and we just didn't hear about it.
Didn't hear about
it.
I have another issue, and that's the weekend. We talk about the evening hours. If you get deliveries, if you're arguing, you only get deliveries when the store closed, why do you need the time during the weekend mornings? Weekend mornings, and even during the days, the weekend, a lot of people are home relaxing. I think we ought to think about whatever you decide to do about hours. I would vote for them the way it is, but we should also expect it.
Well, how would people feel about shifting it? Right now it's 8 to 6, moving it from like 10 to 8. It's the same number of hours.
No, but it's 8.
They want to do it after the store closes.
Well, they want to do it after the store closes, but what they've indicated is the traffic in the store does decline before it closes, and I don't know, let them respond to that.
No, you're 100% right. We aim today to get the truck between 8 and 8:30. Now, traffic being what it is, the truck sometimes gets there early, sometimes gets there a little bit late. So that's our goal. We operate a number of stores in the city. All of those stores take trucks throughout the evening. We tried our best in this case to take the truck as early as we could without compromising having freight on the floor. So I understand the noise issue. You know, we can certainly try to address what we can with the bins to address that. And we can tell them to not speak loudly. But other than that, I'm not sure what else we can do. We can't effectively run a business with freight all over the floor. We took the one truck in the effort to limit the amount of times it was, you know, in and out of the delivery doors. We figured once in and out was better than 6, 7, whatever time of day. So I'm not sure. But yes, consolidating the hours is fine. And quite honestly, the trucks today come Monday through Friday.
If the starting hour were 10 a.m., would that be a problem for you?
No, not a problem at all.
Okay.
Omar.
So yeah, so the issue here is that now, if there was ever to be implemented SBS on the M104, how would that impact the parking?
It would mean an extended bus stop to accommodate articulated buses. That's what it would mean. It would mean a longer bus stop.
In any event, that's not an issue right now.
Yeah, and I don't think this stop wouldn't be one of the SBS stops anyway.
Rich.
Okay, a few quick comments. No matter what, we don't want parking in the bus stop. That doesn't help with the noise issue at all, and it's blocking a bus stop. So the tickets are irrelevant, and that's not a fix in any way. That just creates a problem with the bus stop without solving the noise issue at all. Overall, this is not a transportation issue. This is a noise quality of life issue masquerading as a trans issue because it's a matter of when there's legal parking, but that's not the core issue here. I question why there's 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. no parking on 90th Street at all if you guys aren't using it. Is someone else, or does that make sense not to have parking there? Something for us to figure out. I forget your name, but I agree with you that it was poor planning for us to have this situation right now. But we're here, and it's a question of what do we do about it and what kind of compromise can we work out. To Mark's point, we don't want empty storefronts. We want businesses to succeed. To all of your point, we don't want noise at all hours of the day. What kind of solution is possible? Is there an operations solution that's possible for you to take shipments in some other way that doesn't disrupt your business? Is there some kind of operations way of doing it more quietly? I doubt that. Is there some time that's acceptable other than 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.? You know, what kind of solution is there? Again, this is not a transportation issue, but you know, since we're talking about it, we should think about what solutions there might be and then work the transportation around the solution. But it's not going to be a transportation solution. It's going to be some other solution, and we can fix the parking to meet that solution. Roberta?
I mean, I think on the noise mitigation, there must be ways to mitigate some of the noise. Whether it's a different kind of air truck, whether it's getting the people to do hand signals instead of shouting at each other. You know, there are ways.
Actually, you're going to laugh, but I've seen stores put down a layer of cardboard and then roll the dollies along that. It really deadens the sound.
Yeah. You could hire mimes.
I was going to actually go to the same place that Roberta was, which is that I think one of the things that you'll have to do as part of your cost of doing business is assign somebody to manage the deliveries in a way that's a little more aggressive than you're doing now. Because it is entirely possible to lower, I've actually worked on trucks that have that tailgate, and it's heavy, and the inclination is to get it to move and then let it flop. And if there's somebody standing over there with a clipboard saying, no, 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 they'll eventually get the point. I think your store actually sells the cardboard that Andrew was talking about. So, you know, again, or a rubber mat or whatever. Again, a little bit of hands-on management is going to go a long way toward meeting the objections of your neighbors. And as much as I want retail to thrive in our community, we also want our neighbors to live in good balance with that. So I think I think the answer to all of that is hands-on management from your staff at the time, whenever it is that these trucks arrive.
That's all well and good, but they've come here to specifically request an extension of the hours. So do we do that in addition? That's the question.
Maybe the answer is we defer the decision a month so we can get a work plan from the store and see, and then speak to DOT in the interim and see why the regulations on 90th Street are the way they are. And we come back and we get the plan and we then, you know, I'm not trying to shift.
Does that mean that we have another month of tickets and double parking? And
I suggested that she go downtown.
And bus
try to talk.
passengers.
You may have that anyway until whatever we vote on
We'll
would
take
be
a month in.
implemented.
Carlene's
Whatever.
not here.
Well, presumably it would delay it a month if we wait a month to make a decision. So I'm just
But we want the
concerned
right,
about
we
that.
want the right combination here. I think.
How do you calculate that?
Carlene's not here.
I have a question for the neighbors. It seems to me that, you know, regardless of the time, that Broadway would be a better place for the truck to be unloading than 90th Street. Do you guys agree with that?
Yes.
Because it seems that we need to figure out what time it's unloading and make sure that whatever time it is, they can have space to unload at that time. But I personally think Broadway would be better, but it seems like you all agree.
But Rich, here's the one question about that, and folks, you can answer this. The Broadway location we're talking about is the southern end of that block, south of the bus stop. To wheel the dollies from there to where your entrance is that further? It's further than 90th Street, isn't it?
It's much further.
It's much further, so,
Again, the only way Broadway works is if the bus stop gets moved.
yes.
Because otherwise it's.
It's
then
possible,
you're-
we can
Then you're
ask.
talking about more
Yes.
wheeling and more, you
Yes,
know.
that's what I'm thinking.
Longer distances.
That takes time and they're spaced out in a certain way, but I can certainly ask.
But you would still want a time past 6 p.m. for that spot.
Yeah.
This is the issue that they're raising here, is the timing.
And I have a feeling that the people whose apartments front on 90th Street are well represented here. I have a feeling that if we go for this Broadway solution, we're going to get a lot of people from 250 whose apartments front on Broadway.
Yeah, that's gonna Broadway.
Everybody lives on the front.
But you're still better with Broadway than that.
I'm not. We're not here arguing the current time, we're here arguing the extension of the time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and so I mean, we're saying, oh, no, please, 8 to 6, great.
Make it work, it's the way
Make it
you
work.
how you took the space.
Well,
So
We're
make
just saying
that
don't
work.
extend till 10 p.m.
Just a question, would
Yeah.
10 to 8 be acceptable? No.
So, but when you make it like the garbage trucks come, you're just delaying that to a later point.
A question, I don't know if this helps. I would never suggest this on 90th Street, but the sidewalk on Broadway is much wider. And what a lot of trucks do is unload onto the sidewalk and then in effect, use the sidewalk as their staging area to then move things into their stores. Grocery stores do this all the time. Theoretically, that's also a ticket, although it's a lower price ticket. I think it's $100 or $110 instead of $165. But it also makes some sense, especially in a block that doesn't have a lot of outdoor cafes and other encroachments on the street. So I'm wondering if moving it to Broadway, whatever stretch of Broadway the loading zone occupies, whether that will solve the need for after-hours deliveries because the staging area is now is figured out.
Is the staging in the store now, and is that what would block the aisles, or is it delivery to the shelves that would block the aisles?
You have to bring all the skids and the bins in and stage them in different parts.
So,
How many
You
skids are we
stock the
talking?
shelves. It depends on the night. I mean, most of the
Range?
delivery is bins. So it's a combination of both. Like one night we got 9 skids and 20 some odd bins. And then it could be 4 skids and then 30 bins. It's whatever fills the truck, so it depends on
you might want to change the name to Bin Bath and Beyond.
But
Yes, sir.
people are,
I don't know you, but
Rich.
I really appreciate the way you articulate things because I think it's quite correct. You said that this was a quality of life issue masquerading as a parking issue. And what I think this is also is this is a quality of life issue masquerading as a Bed Bath and Beyond issue because extending the time doesn't mean one truck for Bed Bath & Beyond. Whether it's on Broadway or 90th Street, it means everyone who wants to decide to load and unload during that newly extended window can do so. And to the lady who was here, who isn't here now, but with all due respect, these sound mitigation plans, like a set of rules of what, number one, no one will comply with them in a week. And number two, that's not the only store that's going to be using that. The minute you make that available for Barzini's and for the Whole Foods, which by the way is right on the corner, right around the corner from you, they seem to be able to, they should be able to load their trucks without a problem.
They got a driveway too. They probably got a driveway where they back their truck up. Do they have a small driveway there at Whole Foods?
No, it's a different Whole Foods. It's not the big Whole Foods. It's a small one. But they're a small store, and they're on the corner of 89th and Broadway, right? So they have the same issue. They're just one block south.
Scale is very different.
My point is, this is not a Bed Bath & Beyond issue. This is a quality of life issue that affects, that it's masquerading as being a simple application by Bed Bath & Beyond. But what is reality is it is an application that is a far greater ramification, including for everyone here. Right? I mean,
yes. Well, and the question there, and you obviously have a hypothesis, is if we were to take these two spots just south of the bus stop, or create,
sorry, I can't see what you did.
If we were to create space on Broadway between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m., would that mean that a lot of other trucks would come and unload from other business? And none of us would know the answer to that without trying it out.
They probably would once they see that sign.
But I can't answer that, but I can tell you that right here, this is the bus stop. This is a fire hydrant, which no one's allowed to park in front of, which they all do anyway. These spaces are not that, they're meter until 10 p.m. and then they need to be gone for street cleaning at, I believe this site is an 8 a.m. street cleaning, 5 days a week. So those spots are generally, they're spots that you could easily move and use in a way to make a loading zone. It will probably actually be useful for Whole Foods, but it doesn't matter because, as you said, this is not about which side of the road you do it on. 90th Street is a residential street. Broadway is Broadway, but I live on both. So I don't really, that's not the issue. The issue is they have 8 p.m. to 6 p.m. right now that is available for them to load. There are trucks constantly, and while I admonish those who speak about double parking, but there are trucks at midday yesterday outside the window, 3 deep, double parked, unloading. Now, I can't say they're unloading for your store. I don't know because they were just white trucks. But their tailgates were down and the person was kind of feeding through between the trucks to get to the bus. There's got to be a better solution for that area of Broadway where it is now. But the solution doesn't involve extending the hours.
Yeah.
That should be the end of this inquiry. Like,
so,
in reality, it's the
how about the morning? You guys are open at 7 a.m.? Can you do 8 a.m.?
Again, I think it's a storage issue for them. So
But if you have, so
we opened at 8 a.m., we have to take the truck at 6 a.m. to get all the stuff in.
So if you took it at 10 p.m. or whatever time at night, it takes you 2 hours to unload everything.
No, to unload, it'll take us probably 30, 45 minutes. Again, it depends on what.
But you couldn't do that at 8 a.m.?
We could, but then it's going to be on the floor. So we don't have enough time to then, it's the same problem you run into if we take the truck during the day. I could unload it, yes, but then it's going to be all spread throughout the store, blocking the aisle.
But if it's at night, isn't it spread throughout the store, blocking the aisles, or are you staying after it closed?
But then we're closed, and then then they're spending that.
So you're working like 10 p.m. till midnight?
They work all night in the building. They work
Okay.
till morning.
So you really want that delivery around 9 or 10 o'clock?
We really want it around 8 or 8:30.
But why do you want it at 8 or 8:30 if you close at 10?
Because if we slow down enough, to this gentleman's point before, that we can start to take it, we're trying to take it as early as we can to be somewhat respectful of people in the area. So that was the earliest we could take it without trying to disrupt everything. I can't take it at 6 and get it in the
How
morning.
busy are you 8 in the morning?
Not terribly busy.
So if you got it at 8 in the morning,
10 a.m. wouldn't work.
I would venture to guess that I'd have to ask a number of people, but I would venture to guess.
They open at 7, you open at 7 a.m.?
Right. We open at 7. Because the stock crew works. So the whole staff.
So you need
works
the overnight
from
to-
9 p.m. straight through.
To unload onto the
showers.
What would 9 p.m. do for you if we compromised? What would 9 p.m. do for you?
Well, they-
Compromised and
Well, I
said,
think they're saying that.
Yeah, they'd say even early. They would do even earlier. So if the neighbors want it earlier,
no, I mean,
We try to take the truck around 8, and like I said, they can't guarantee it gets there 8 every night. So it gets there some nights at 8:30, some nights at 9, sometimes it's there before 8.
and it takes how long to?
On average, I'd say between 30 and 45.
where's this truck coming from? You have a warehouse in Jersey.
It's a caucus.
So in worst case scenario, you'd be 10 minutes overtime if the signage was
I don't
coming.
want to swear to 10 minutes, but yeah, I mean, as best as possible, yes, we try to hit those times. But that we dispatch those trucks on the early side of all the New York City deliveries. So it's the first truck we dispatch out of the warehouse, and then the rest of the New York City stores follow after. So the first truck.
You're also operating under the presumption that when you roll in with your truck, this is going to be empty. Like that's a complete fallacy. Not just because, number one, it's going to be available to others, and there are a number of residents in our building who have disabled stickers, as well as the building next door. This is prime parking for people with those stickers because they don't have to comply with those rules. They can park there at any time, so I've seen that lot, and I'm sure you guys have as well, with like 4 or 5, maybe 6 cars in the 90th Street area that have that are allowed to park there. So my point is, extending your hours doesn't actually mean.
I don't think they're allowed to park in a loading.
Well, they don't get ticketed.
Handicap?
They're allowed to park in a loading zone.
And in the
So allowed to park or to stand and unload and then leave.
Again, according to the ticket agents I spoke to, they cannot ticket that.
The 90th Street solution isn't a solution. It doesn't do anything far near.
That shouldn't happen.
Request of all the residents.
I don't think they ticket even if.
And that may be the point, is that whether or not it's quote unquote legal. If they don't take it, then they don't take it.
Right. So it's a de facto blocking of that.
There you go.
Yeah. So my point is that the whole 90th Street suggestion is on a complete fallacy that the space will be empty for your truck. It probably won't.
So what?
Well, as you said, this is not a parking issue, it's a timing issue.
Right. No,
It's a
I've
question.
made myself pretty clear already.
Yes.
I think
Well,
the
actually-
timing, we should have stopped this discussion 45 minutes ago.
Maybe so, but to Howard's point, we may have just stumbled onto the transportation issue here, because if this gentleman's correct and the loading zone is occupied, then the question becomes, where do we want the double parking? Do we want it on Broadway or do we want it on West 90th Street? And my answer would then be an emphatic Broadway.
That's another issue though.
Yeah.
But the timing issue is still on the table.
Absolutely. But it may not be the only issue.
Would you happen to know, being a resident of the block, if the cars that are parked in the supposed loading zone are the same cars on a daily basis or different cars? Have you ever looked at the license plates or?
There are a
Yeah,
number
90th
that are
Street
similar,
Road.
but it changes all the time. Of course, you also get Time Warner Cable Park there and Penske Truck Park there, and they're loading, so they're allowed to, whatever.
Any commercial place.
So
What does your store do when this is occupied? Just move to Broadway and unload there?
that's what's going to happen all the time.
You don't go
But
around the
honest
block
about
a few
it.
times, you just go to Broadway and
It
do it.
never empties, to the gentleman's point, he's 100% right, since those signs went up,
Give tickets during the night, but they don't want to give tickets to them.
And
It's
the
just-
signs read what?
truck loading 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. except Sunday.
Hang on 1 second, we'll get it for you right now.
But so those spots don't fill up during the day with
So during the day, there's cars there too.
No parking 8 a.m.
But which is why-
Changing the time does nothing. It does nothing. I realize we have to find a solution, but changing the time does nothing other than enable, a later unloading, which is what we're trying to avoid.
That's the issue on
Right.
From multiple sources.
Wait, but if you're saying that those spots are full throughout the day and night,
I'm not there all day, so I can't speak
No,
about
but-
what time there.
but if
What happens on 90th Street there, cars go in and out, and sometimes it's a commercial, smaller truck, sometimes it's a car, a resident who unloads. What happens at like 5:45, we have quite a few disabled people in the building. they line up in order to grab those parking spots. So it's mostly, you can see the disabled signs in the windshield. And so you have 4 or 5 cars parked starting at 5:45, 6 p.m. at night.
Rich, we're losing the issue here. The issue is the deliveries after 6 p.m. That's the issue on the table.
The issue is
But
that the 90s
I
street
disagree.
delivery,
If we're
right?
hearing that any loading zone that we create at any hour will be filled up with other vehicles, so there won't be space for the truck that we're talking about, then this whole conversation is irrelevant.
Why?
Because if we can't block from 6 to 8 because other cars are going to fill it, but those other cars are also filling it from the current 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., then we're not solving any
Are
issue
you
by.
really getting anything if we extend the time if there are cars parked there illegally?
No, then you'd be forced to double park going in the bus stop.
But as a practical matter, if we extended the time, would you really get anything? If cars are parked there illegally?
If we can't have it limited to trucks loading and unloading versus cars with these
Or on the
decals,
commercial trucks.
yes.
By the way, the car that's in the parking spot right there, if you zoom in on its rearview mirror, you'll see the handicap parking sticker.
Wow.
It's right there.
There it is. That's 90th Street.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So for the motion on the table, which I understand is 90th Street between 6 and 8, at 6 and 10, and I know that it's initially started at 7 days a week, but I think you're saying that that's not actually the application that's now.
It's actually not a motion on the table
Well,
yet.
whatever, I'm sorry, I don't know the terminology, my apologies. But in any, I mean, for that entire movement, then this isn't a solution.
Well, I see at least 2 or 3 issues that we need answers from DOT on before we can act intelligently, which is there any enforcement of these vehicles in a loading zone? The vehicles that Mark just showed you a picture of.
That's a PD issue, not a DOT.
Well, but she'll know the answer, I'm sure, which I can hopefully find out as early as tomorrow. Well, there's the issue of can the bus stop be moved to the southern end of the block and thus a loading zone put on the northern end, which would mean less rolling of the trolleys. There's just a few issues that we don't have an answer to tonight.
That's an MTA.
That's a DOT issue. DOT controls the bus stops.
But they still raise the issue of the timing.
Yeah,
Yes, the timing.
we still have the issue.
We do have that issue.
I mean, as long as they get the answers. The one thing, DOT does only control, they control the bus stop, like putting in the sign,
Yeah.
but the MTA has to agree to move the stop.
I know.
The transit authority has to agree.
He's on the board.
So-
Andrew knows everything.
He's on the MTA board.
Yeah, okay.
No, I know. And that will depend on the spacing out, the current spacing out, and yes.
I'm not sure how any of the open items that have come up bear on the question of hours. The hours of availability seem to me to be the whole point. And I don't see a lot of wiggle room in that. And perhaps, the first one of these meetings I've been to, if a motion needs to be made and voted on, perhaps this is the right time to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
There was
again,
some
this is a
movement on the hours from 10 p.m. back to 8 p.m. from what I heard,
Or not.
or 9. Yeah.
And the motion would be to make no extension of the hours.
But don't remove.
No, we don't need a motion
No,
not to
no,
change
don't
things.
remove
We don't
We would
need
need
a
a motion to change it. Yep.
The head of Bowbray granted stores. Now, if the store in Bowbray has not got the facility of the abutting street, how do they manage?
I think it depends on the kind of deliveries and the frequency of their deliveries.
I mean,
If they have small vehicles and they get frequent multiple deliveries, they can manage. If it's a big trailer, less easy.
So with due respect, they brought me beyond but the debt. And the other company, Fairway down the road, there is a Moon's company.
Fairway has so many double parking issues. Let's not get into that.
Yeah,
one.
let's.
yeah, bad example.
Yeah.
That's right.
Anything, Roberta?
I don't see any reason to table. We have an imminent issue And to your point, none of these issues impact the basic issue of whether we should leave the no parking zone to 6 p.m., the loading zone to 6 p.m., and force them either to comply or to get tickets and to clog the bus lane, or to come up with some accommodation that the neighbors won't be happy with. That's a secondary issue. The question is hours, and yeah, but it's secondary. It's a question about hours, and once you figure out hours, you decide whether you move it or not. But the issue for Bed Bath & Beyond doesn't matter whether it's 90th Street or Broadway. The issue for the neighbors doesn't matter whether it's 90th Street or Broadway. It's a question of, is it 6 p.m., is it 8 p.m., or is it 10 p.m.?
But you need a resolution.
Right, but you don't need that resolution tonight.
Yeah,
Right.
that's not the question yet. The question on the table right now that everyone is concerned about, both Bed Bath & Beyond and the neighbors, is whether the truck unloads before 6, before 8, or before 10. And Bed Bath & Beyond had wanted 10, they agreed to 8. But we hear the neighbors that the 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. is dinner time, and it's a time that they don't want all the noise on their street.
And, well, they're going to get noise apparently between 8 and 8:30. So that would be beyond dinner time. But the question I have that I can't figure out is that if you get what you're asking for, you would sit on 90th Street or Broadway. To hear you tell it, you still would have to double park because these spaces would be taken up in the loading zone.
Depends on if they are taken. I mean, there's times they're not, and there's times they are on 90th Street. I don't know what Broadway.
Which is all the more reason this is not a transportation issue. This is a quality of life issue, because as the transportation committee, even if we do everything we can do, short of us lying down in that space holding it for your truck, we can't guarantee you that the space is going to be available for your truck, and that you're not going to be forced with the same issue anyway if other vehicles are in that space. And whether it's 8 to 6 or...
Rich, but the issue of double parking on Broadway is a very different issue than double parking on 90th. If it comes to that.
But they can double park wherever they want. We can't control where they double
But it's
park.
worse if they double park.
Yeah, but they can double park illegally. And we're not going to have an impact on where and when they're double parking.
So
We can only have an impact potentially
So regardless of what information we get from DOT on those two issues and hearing from Bed Bath & Beyond on a method of making their deliveries quieter, you just want to vote tonight.
I don't see how it matters, because I forget whose point it was. Bed Bath & Beyond is not going to be quieter. Realistically, they seem like great people and they can make good efforts.
Let's get the sense.
It's not going to last.
I agree that there's a timing issue, and then whatever time they're delivering, whether it's 4 in the afternoon or 9 at night, it should be in the place that causes the least havoc. So on the timing issue, is there a sense of the committee that maybe we should consider moving the time past 6 p.m.? But Isaac?
I'm not in favor. I want to get more information on Colleen, because she's very astute on that whole situation over there. Yeah,
It's really just the timing.
I understand that, but
It's timing and it's a method of delivery that could be done more quietly.
right. She might have a very good answer along with the timing to solve their problems. And it's just so fortunate that many other nights she would be here. She's not.
I just don't see what she would say that would impact anything, because it's a noise issue.
Mark, do you have an opinion on this? Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Frankly, I don't.
Rich?
Would you like one? Because there's a few people that have gone.
I'll go with whatever.
I support what I've been saying, which is that no matter.
Or not.
I say tonight, we're not going to get.
The question is,
Should we
Oh.
move it? Should we extend the hours? That's the question.
At all.
At all.
So
I'm sorry, your time limit has been exceeded.
I think I lean to 8 p.m., which I know the neighbors aren't thrilled with. It's better than 10 p.m.
You know what? I agree.
Andrew?
I want more information before I vote on anything. That's my opinion.
So you would abstain?
I would.
I would be
I wanna be
in favor of a compromise where we move the whole thing up a little, 10 p.m., but then I run the risk of maybe there's
10
another.
p.m. is a little.
No, 10 a.m., 10 a.m., sorry. 10 a.m. or whatever, but then we run the risk of cutting off deliveries for some other business that says we can only get deliveries at 9 a.m. So
I don't see how does 10 a.m., 8 a.m. or 10 a.m. change anything?
Someone mentioned the weekend.
Would you guys be happier about?
Right, this is the board's time.
Yeah. But no, we
want feedback.
Soliciting. Someone mentioned on the weekend they like
Yeah,
to sleep later, which I.
Does the 8
certainly
a.m. if we moved 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. or made it Monday through Friday, not Monday through Saturday, would that be preferable?
You don't want anything beyond 6 p.m.
No, we hear you on that. Yeah.
Which one? What are the hours?
So totally separate question. Are the other hours, and we hear you about the evening hours, are the morning hours a concern? And would moving it from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. or making it Monday to Friday instead of Monday to Saturday be something that would be beneficial for you, totally separate from the evening? Or is that not really a concern?
I don't think you'll find much sympathy over here for extending the hours at all. Everybody.
No, we're talking about reducing the hours at other times. So in the morning, making it no parking 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. instead of 8 a.m.
Are you saying to reduce the number of hours total? Or
No, to just simply 2 hours later. 2 hours later, it would go from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Well, no, we can't ask it like that because they don't want it to go from 6 to 8. If we, just hypothetically, one scenario, if we were to move it from, no, I hear you. If we were to move it from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. regardless, that's going to happen regardless. I'm not saying it will, but if that were to happen, totally separate, would you be happier if it was no parking 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. than 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.? Or do you not care? Okay. And how about Saturday? Is Saturday a concern at all?
There's no consensus on this. Call in the question. Yeah, sorry.
Have you been able to determine the occupancy of the loading zone on 90th Street is more free of these vehicles that we saw with a handicapped decal on it in the mornings or in the late afternoons or in the early evenings? Have you been able to determine that in any
We're
way?
the lady.
Yeah.
I know on my here, I can tell you because the number of different cars is different. When I spoke to the agent, they said they can't do anything. They said if you call 311, we did call 311. Then they responded and said there was nothing wrong. So they said we can do that every day.
And as far as you know, they would be there up until 10.
I don't know. I mean, I've gone out and checked a couple of times a day. Sometimes it's full and sometimes it's not. So I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason that more cars. On 90,
Okay, let's call the question.
Well, what's the question is being?
The question is, should the loading zone be extended until 8 p.m.?
Okay. If we do that, it's not going to solve anything because their truck is coming between 8 and 2.
No, they said they'd get their truck by 8, right?
You can't put a time. They say.
Even if they do, even if it's going to be timing.
Could we get an answer?
Do you want the resolution to be 9 p.m.?
No.
I would. It'd be the same problem. I think that's more.
Okay.
Stick with the other.
We'll call the question. All those in favor?
Wait, hold on.
Yeah. It's not supposed to be a discussion.
If we're talking about changing the hours, then I think it is appropriate to talk about whether we move it to Broadway or 90th Street.
That's what we already said.
That's what we just said.
Why don't we have a vote on just changing the hours?
That's the resolution on the table.
But not specifying the hours.
Not, extending the hours. All those in favor?
Changing the hours.
All those in favor of changing the hours based upon the information we have right now? All those in favor? 3. All those against? 1. All those abstaining? 2. Yes.
Can you just explain what was just passed?
Nothing.
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 Wait on Carlene, that's for sure.
Non-committee board.
Nothing's changing.
Nothing's changing. Our major take is we need to have the lady here for this. That would help me, at least me and maybe Andrew and others, to figure out the timing for you and also what's going on
What's
with the bus.
feasible, what
First we have
restrictions can be put on, what can't,
Non-committee board members.
possibility of moving a bus.
Non-committee board members, all in favor? All opposed? Abstaining? Okay, 002.
So do we need a resolution to put this off?
No, it's done, it fails.
We will attempt to find out, and did everybody leave their contact
But what's the
information?
point of finding out?
Can it be brought up again?
Many
Definitely
people
voted.
voted no, because we didn't have enough information.
But that's what I'm saying, do we need to carry it over or carry something?
It's up to them. It's up to them.
They can raise it again.
Yeah, they can raise again.
So-
We spent enough time on this issue. It's over.
Can we get your support? We got to try and move the bus stuff. Let's say we went.
I am looking into that.
He's gonna look into it.
Yes.
He's gonna look into what you do. He's gonna look
Okay.
at
Next issue. You're all set.
Thank you for listening.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
it. Good luck.
You made your case
Good luck.
And, thank you guys very much. You brought a great case very politely, which most people don't.
Sorry.
Say, Luke Campbell.
Yeah, I know.
We understand that. Everyone understands that.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have a much more intelligent answer for you next.
Yeah, good enough. And I would still go down.
Much more.
Yeah, I mean, I have a list of orders in case.
Go downtown.
Sorry.
Especially if there's cars blocking your look.
We've said that, and they said.
Did you bother to go, or did you just pay the fine and back?
No, we just.
If you go, it's
Yeah,
a different
don't do
story.
it.
Go once.
Protesting, yeah. He's right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Did
we get your name, ma'am?
No.
No. What's your name? Yeah. No, no. What's your head of UFFY?
There's a lot of people. Email Penny.
Thank you, Penny.
Yeah, so P. Ryan at.
Okay.
Not necessarily Penny Ryan. She's the district manager, so she's
Next
item
issue.
20.
Oh.
We just make sure to get administrative. Let's do these budget priorities stuff. This is a must, this is a time sensitive thing.
Is this the last issue for tonight?
P. Ryan, CB7.
What's the new business? I don't want to keep you waiting.
I have 5 questions. 10 questions.
Okay, shoot. Can we take this first?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay, so this is related to the previously proposed 110th Street bike lane.
Yeah, should we hold until?
This is coming up at our next meeting.
Okay, so.
We're actually gonna hold the next meeting uptown around near Douglas Circle.
Okay, so I just wanted to.
DOT will be making a presentation on their plans
Okay, in November?
in November.
Yes, we had a presentation from them and we sent them back because it was
Right.
their.
No, I was there for that
Yeah.
presentation. So it's coming, the November transportation meeting, it'll be November.
Months along.
11/14. Okay. Look at the
Oops, sorry. Oh, I thought I turned it off.
Second question.
Yes.
Since 110th Street, several parts of New York, Board 1 and 79, is it correct both community boards have to
I
approve?
spoke to Penny, our district manager today, and apparently it's a 3-board issue. It's 7, 9, and 10 because the north side of Douglas Circle is in board 10. So all 3 boards.
Okay. Okay, these are just quick questions about the city bike kiosks, which are proliferating up there. What is the procedure for reviewing the usage of them? Because
In
some
this
are
board?
as short as about 20 and some are 40. And either way, they have 5 bikes in them. So who oversees that or adjusts? the number?
They always have 5 bikes in them, or 5 are being used, or 10 are being used. Do you know?
During the day, I never see more than 5. I did notice that then Motivate goes around and stocks them up to halfway.
That's what they're doing now.
They don't fully stock
They're
everything.
changing that
No,
stock
up to
now.
halfway. I literally saw this. So,
They're stocking, that's what they're doing now. I know that.
Right.
They're stocking.
right, but if they only stock to halfway, do they need 40?
It depends. It depends. They got to change. It's just not your area, but it's all over there.
Right. Okay, let me just throw out one idea, which is maybe to put the kiosks in the bus stops where the passengers are not getting on and off, because then, you know, a lot of, especially on Broadway, those are wide areas anyway.
Where the passengers are not getting on and off, and it's in a bus stop?
Well, the bus stops take up a lot of space, but the bus takes up about half the space the bus stop takes.
But if by some strange quirk, there has been a problem in traffic, or somebody had a sickness, or there was a wheelchair passenger, there's sometimes two buses together.
Right. I agree, I'm just saying, since these are proliferating, it occurred to me, especially on Broadway, which is, you know, has wide sidewalks.
That's the reason why.
And one last question, what is the procedure for reviewing, seeing about reducing alternate side parking to 1 day a week, which they have way uptown?
That is not gonna happen.
But they have it up in Washington Heights.
That's a special situation up there, though. They're not gonna have it, trust me.
Or
They're not
7 and 4 day and have it 3 days a
Right,
week.
right.
Our streets, the cleaning.
She asked a question though, what is the process?
That's
Which we bring into DOT and the Department of Sanitation, and
That's
the
not correct.
Department of Sanitation would
That's a
assess
money
the
issue.
cleanliness of the blocks.
Well, if Andrew's saying it's something that we have control over,
Well,
or we have say over.
Control, but we have a say.
So what was the special case for Washington Heights?
Per your thoughts, or
I mean,
are you
they've got
opposed to
some
it, or?
girls too.
That's a money,
Less
that's a major
density.
money issue. That's not gonna, that's a special situation.
I think it's density too, Isaac.
Yeah.
It's density of the.
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn, there was no alternate side of the street parking. You just parked and stayed forever.
It's 1 day a week.
And that's why they changed
But
it.
if they're
So-
relatively.
No, it's still that way.
Are you serious?
I think there's a
That's
scorecard
not-
the Department of Sanitation gives to blocks and a neighborhood, and I think the frequency is based on block, you would know, but I think the scorecard has something to do with it.
Yeah, it does. And they actually raised it this year's budget consultation because the scorecard has a budget impact for the first time they send up the students and so forth. It also has a budget impact because they make money when they go out and they send the ticket people along with the street sweeper. So for all those reasons, they are.
That's the bigger budget impact is the revenue.
No, they've been on the rampage all week. They've been towing
Long story
cars.
short is, and I agree with Isaac, I think it's a long shot.
So, I mean, regardless of whether it's a long shot or not, she asked the question of the process, which is, second of all,
You would say, I think such and such block doesn't merit 3 times a week alternate side.
We have 2 times.
Okay.
well, 4 times a
wherever
week,
you are.
2 on each side.
And then we would ask the Department of Sanitation, you would give me those blocks, we would ask the Department, and we would ask the Department of Sanitation to review what the scorecard is for that neighborhood, and they would get back to us, and they would say it's either really good, or it's okay, or we really need this alternate side.
So my thought on that is, totally hear you, Isaac. It's a huge uphill battle. It's a long shot. The question I have is an environmental question. What is the cost of keeping streets that clean and sweeping 4 times a week in terms of air pollution? And how much more are cars driving in circles and driving across the street and sitting in the cars with cars running?
It's funny, you didn't ask that question with loading zones that double parked commercial vehicles are blocking Amsterdam to the point where there is incredible air pollution impact, which there is.
Wait, what do you?
Not to mention safety.
What do you?
I think air pollution, our air quality has suffered over a variety of scenarios here.
But I think that should be a consideration. Do we want to keep our streets clean at the expense of our air? And
You're saying that the
Trust me,
increased
these new
use
machines
of
that they
the,
have,
of the
they're
alternate
not-
side
they're not.
parking and cars having to move is polluting our air, or the Department of Sanitation vehicles coming through?
no, the former. The
former.
Yeah, causing cars to drive that much more looking for parking.
Well, it's not only that, but I mean, the machines that they use today, the pollution comes from these cleaning machines. You don't even smell.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying the increased mileage from cars driving around in circles looking for parking, and also cars
That's
driving.
a personal issue though with somebody's car driving around. How you gonna stop
Okay.
that?
No, it's a societal issue. If we're if
What
having
he's also saying is the car then sits there for 40 minutes with its motor on for at least 6
These,
months of the year.
these cars are
either
not
with-
leaking any fumes, miss. I understand what you're saying.
With AC
They're,
on
they're
or
not,
heat on.
that's a person, they're not, that's not a.
Then why do we have a no idle for more than 3 minutes?
Yeah, well, they're breaking the law.
The
The answer to your question is you find out the cleanliness score for the street and come to us with a proposal
That's what you
to change the alternate side of the street parking, we'll debate it and decide what to do.
You know, we probably should be the
Okay.
Because
I agree.
I thought you called Penny.
Just tell us the blocks you're referring to, phone it into the office, and we'll get the info, and we'll get back to you.
But I just would be curious, what is the special case in Washington Heights that enabled them to get 1 day?
I have to look it up, but I remember it vividly that there's a special case because of the way that the areas and things are designed up in Washington Heights.
The,
You can look it up online.
The island of Manhattan is much narrower up there.
Also hilly.
Hillier and
Yeah,
much
right.
narrower. You know, sometimes it's 3 or 4 blocks width.
And also it's a lot less densely populated.
I don't know about
And I
that.
think also
Yeah,
you
well,
want
it's not-
more there than you do here.
Lot more what?
The nature of the way people live.
Yes.
Further, farther away, it's more of a car centric.
And you also have more transient cars there due to the 95.
And they are real strict up, they're real strict up there as far as ticketing and towing up there in that area too. They're
Okay,
very,
I should have clarified this on the November 14th meeting. Are all 3 community boards going to be there, or they're going to
No.
present to each board?
No, but there could be a representative from each board there. All 3 boards will not be there. It's a CB7 meeting.
Okay, but the DOT will also have to go and have separate.
Yeah, they will have separate meetings with the other boards.
Yeah.
What's happening on the?
Okay, thank you.
One is gonna meet up there, I think, in the Douglas Circle area, and he's arranging with Cathedral Towers.
Great, thank you.
What was your name? Susan Rowe.
Okay, is it just any other new business? The district.
Oh,
the guys, I'm sorry, the,
Budget priorities. We should, I mean, we can leave it on here, but I mentioned to Howard, I think the reconstruct Riverside Drive 104 to 110 is partially underway, if not considerably underway. So I don't know that stays or what number. Keep it. This is number 4. I think we might keep it, or we'll ask Penny, and Penny will inform us whether it should be.
I have a question on 70th in Columbus and somewhere in Amsterdam, they reconfigured the mixing zone.
They sure did. 85th in Amsterdam.
Well, what's the status of that? Where is that going? Is that?
I heard it's a pilot.
Yeah, pilot.
Remember the guy came to us and said?
Yeah. I remember we
I don't think they did
The mixing was dangerous, and so they did it this way. You've seen the new one?
Yeah.
that's 85th in,
85th in Amsterdam and 70 in Columbus.
I've actually ridden through it when a car was turning. It feels
Feel safe?
But also finally has paint between 85 and 86 in Amsterdam, which it didn't, and that was a real
So that
issue.
is still taken up. It eliminated the left turn lane for the car. And that's unfortunate.
At 85th and Amsterdam?
The same one you're talking
Oh, they did.
I think that's what.
At 85 or 86?
At 85, the one.
That's where the change was made.
Pilot one.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's a pilot.
Because I think what we envisioned is that they would keep the left turn lane and have the flexible bollards follow the route.
That's what we,
in between the bike and the car.
Exactly
And it would
right.
still create that separation, but you wouldn't lose. Because now, a car turning left on 85th Street is essentially going to slow traffic behind it.
That's the downside of
that's
physics.
That's one of the benefits we got when we got the bike.
Slow traffic at the benefit of possibly.
Well, you know, we're talking about slow traffic in an area where it's already.
So I think there's one, at least for New York City Transit, that we're going to want to add to this. Not that community boards have that much sway because it's a state authority, but they have recently cut service on the M66 and M72, and many people are asking for a pilot, for an improved bus pilot on one of these routes to prove that ridership will rebound if the service doesn't keep getting fixed. Right now,
I thought they're called drivers, not pilots.
What is that? What was that?
You said they want to improve bus pilots. Aren't they called drivers?
No. Pilots, yeah. I said an improved bus service pilot to allow for a demonstration.
It's a program, not a human being.
Okay.
Right now, as you know, they do a couple of takes in a month and they say, oh, ridership is this. This is not enough to merit the service we're not providing. So we'll cut it 5 minutes on some days or some minutes in non-rush and all of that. This is a death spiral because the more they cut, the less people are likely to ride it, and thus when they visit it again, it's even worse. So I think we should ask for a bus service pilot on a non-SBS route to prove that bus service can be attractive to people and bring back riders. Because we're, the only other thing would be to ask for another SBS either on 96th Street or on 66th. At 66th Street, I'm not sure it's wide enough to have this kind of thing. And I don't think the sidewalks are wide enough for machines the whole way either, unfortunately.
Why is it one or the other? Why wouldn't we be asking for SBSs anyway? And why are the two related?
I don't know that every route merits SBS.
No,
and
but-
I'm not sure that you will, on a narrow residential street, they'll dig it up to put in the
Right.
electronics necessary for that. But we can certainly ask for improved service.
Is that a capital or?
Yeah, that's not.
That would be under NYC Transit, which is on the last page.
Expensive.
That would likely be an expense.
Well, could I get a
Now,
copy?
is this broken down
Ken.
here? This is capital. These are all capital.
There's an
aren't they?
expense on the last page.
Oh, no, this would be under. Oh, okay. Expense, that's the one thing we have. So now, whatever we say, is this gonna have to go to a group, which is then gonna determine
Goes to
what
the steering.
the steering, and the steering will determine whether it gets in or doesn't get in? But if it's transportation and it's our priority, why wouldn't it get in? It wouldn't be in conflict with someone else's. Are we
Gets
only
in,
allowed
it's
so
just-
many?
The question is
Where it
what the
gets in.
ranking.
Yeah, but it gets in.
It gets in.
Okay.
We've asked for a few things like the protected lane in Columbus Circle. Isn't that?
I don't know that that's a budget issue. That's a something else issue.
It's something else.
Well, we asked for that in 2 different meetings with
Yeah.
DOT.
But are the no right on red signs a budget issue?
If that's a budget issue, why isn't the protected lane in Columbus Circle a budget issue?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is the same list that we've had for
Isn't that
multiple years.
Well,
Like
no,
my,
we've changed, we've taken some things off.
You guys usually include these call attention to them, not necessarily because
Right. Right. So I would think that the Columbus Circle configuration should be on here.
I mean, it can be. I don't think the reason that it isn't happening is a budget one, that's all.
But I don't know.
but are any of these happening or not happening because we're putting them in this budget document?
Well, you can't be so cynical. We have to do the budget document, and what happens, happens. But
But then to Mark's point, are we doing this just to flag concerns or?
for Apple, which is Rickensburg Riverside Drive, and rebuilding sidewalks.
That's what I raised earlier.
Yeah. That would be a budget, that would be a scarce budget dollars issue, and where do you apply?
But does this have any connection with what actually happens in the real world? Do things make it from this sheet of paper into?
I think somebody,
Budget priorities.
somebody
And then
researched that.
They go to the respective agencies, and very often the respective agencies say, sorry, we don't have money.
This time.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I have one question on the cameras. On 90.
Yeah.
Did they take, am I crazy? There's no cameras on 96 in Amsterdam.
Well, they didn't work before anyway, so.
When did they take them down?
The current program requires that the cameras be near schools and only be operating during school hours. Or not even during school hours, it's the morning rush and the evening rush.
No, it's just the morning rush.
That's the most busy corner.
Is it even?
Isaac,
It's not even.
and if you had one at 96 and West End, DOT would be making a shitload of money too, to tell you the truth. Because there's so many people, doing illegal things to get to the
doesn't
highway.
that money go to the state, not to the city?
Who cares?
That's how the incentives are aligned.
Yeah,
You follow the money. That's why.
I know there's more crazier stuff. I said, well, where are the cameras at on 96 in Columbus?
This is a long time discussion that we've had about Why do we have to get state permission for these things that are obviously a city priority? And that's just one of many of those.
But why is it on our list, given that
needs to be on there.
we're only allowed 140 cameras for the whole city?
I think it's on the list to draw attention that we think these are important, and you can't ever have.
Why don't we put them as?
Because it's not a funding.
Yeah, it's just a limit, it's a quota.
Why don't we put them up on every corner as a decoy? And see if it'll slow people down.
I completely agree. And then no one would know what the real ones are.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as my number 10, which is.
some non-operational ones up. Nobody knew they weren't real.
Well,
yeah.
Actually, there is a point to this. The rule is that you can't have more than 140 of them operating at any given time. But you are allowed to have, say, 280 of them, with only half of them working at one time. And then you flip the switch and
And half of them are broken anyway, so that would work.
I know the one in '96 in Columbus wasn't broken.
The other
It was
140 issuing dummy tickets saying you were caught running this red light.
Well, if that's true,
going
Mark.
50 miles an hour.
So there may be some reason to actually keep it in here, because to Rich's and my point, the regulatory effect of seeing the damn camera.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I wish we.
Not only seeing it, having it flash. Have a.
And only
Oh, but it
140
was.
operating.
I don't know how far
Good.
you can go with that.
The one was flash. It was
Why
actually
not?
just
I
a
mean, to
picture.
Ken's point, have it send a dummy ticket saying you were caught going 52, or you were caught going through this red light. If you do this again, we're going to ticket you.
Rich, I don't even know that a dummy ticket is necessary. The fact that it looks like a camera
Right, and
is
Yeah.
a deterrent to
Yeah.
some people.
But I think a lot of people would know.
Like it was actually, I know the one in '96 in Columbus was actually working.
When you see an operational one, do you see it flashing in any way? You can see
Oh, yeah.
anything that
Yes,
shows
you
it
do,
flying?
because the way it works is that it has a white light flash
Right.
that is used to make sure it can read the
Right.
license plate.
So if you
Because
had
only
a,
the license
if you had a
plate-
dummy one with a self
strobe
power
light.
supply with a strobe light, people would think it's real.
In fact, you don't even need the box, you just need the
We should put that
Can
on.
we, can we get that?
Red light camera.
Is there any way we can express our plea to try to get that back on '96 and after that? And along with yours down in West Side.
Yeah, we can do mobile.
There's a few issues that we need to get some of our state electeds back here again. One would be the red light cameras. One would be progress on restoring 96th Street and Riverside, exit from southbound Henry Hudson. There's a few state issues that we need to get those folks here again.
Right. I'd be willing to write a letter or something. I'd like to have those. I mean, I notice it's like I said, it's a lot more crazy over here now that the camera is gone. And, you know,
Why did they take the camera down?
good question.
And you know, when Howard and I went with and met Colleen to look at 79th and Amsterdam, there was a rut or something there. Plus, there was an unsafe movement which we're going to improve the light there, so that people and pedestrians and bikes and motorists don't all go at the same time, because there was a conflict there. There was right while we were standing, there were so many illegal movements to get to the highway. So I would think that it would be city and state DOT's priority to make cameras at the intersections of 79th and 96th, the entrances to the highway. Would you think that?
Absolutely.
And at least 96 is right next to a school, so.
So you have double.
And what's
Yeah.
the thing that catches your light when you go through, you don't have to, when you keep, it just captures your thing so you don't pay for it.
Oh, you're talking about the,
Easy.
Yeah,
the,
Easy Pass. Can't that be used as also for capturing?
No, because then everyone would get rid of Easy Pass.
and did you hear the controversy over the new towers that are being built at the crossings, which nobody wants to say what they're actually doing? And some of the MTA was wondering why that's coming out of our budget if it's state, if it was the governor that wanted these towers. Have you never
No,
heard
what
of
are
that?
the towers?
Well, there's some, Homeland Security won't say exactly what the towers are, but I suspect they have something to do with Homeland Security.
Well, where are some of them?
But the tag readers you're talking about are on an arch over, and they just read you, and they know that you've got a valid Easy Pass, and if you don't, they read your tag.
Could I just read 30 seconds of this article from 2002, New York Times? The city's Department of Transportation is planning to expand its program of photographing drivers who run red lights by adding 200 fake cameras to keep the drivers from knowing which ones are operating. There are now 50 cameras at undisclosed intersections taking pictures of license plates of cars that cross the light after it's turned red. Last year, the city asked for for state funds to add 100 more cameras, but the request was denied. This year it asked for money for 75 with no luck. So the department plans to put up 200 empty cameras and to alternate which ones are operational. Fully functioning cameras cost $58,000 each, New York Times, which includes the cost of installation, maintenance, and electrical work to keep them synchronized with the lights. The empty ones will cost about $6,000. Both emit a flashing light like a strobe. No state legislator approval is needed to purchase the empty cameras, and the city will install them over the next year and a half. I say we make our first priority getting 20 of these throughout our district.
Add it to the list.
Let's put it number one.
Well,
I'm definitely.
what do you want to call them, Rich? Dummy cameras?
Half work and half not work.
Where's our thing about cameras in here?
Right, number,
Seven.
Number 7?
And number 8.
and number 8.
And number 10.
7, 8. Yeah, 7,
number
8,
10.
and 10.
So
7, 8, 9.
you want to make that an add?
Not 9, 10.
You got 10?
Yeah, 9 is variable traffic signal.
So 7, 8, and 10.
7, 8, 10.
Combine all 3 of them together?
No. I
Or-
think we should. One red light cameras, one speed camera. The dummy cameras are technically red light cameras, right? They're not speed cameras.
We're never gonna say those.
So we can just change this to say.
They also watch for
whether,
aliens.
whether or not they
Yeah,
are real or
dummy,
and we want to
put them in both
minimum of
categories, right?
20. So this-
Yeah, put them in both 7 and 8, right?
So they must have took that camera down within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. There's one by the precinct that they put there. I remember you could see it.
It's not there anymore.
No, I don't know why.
I think they have a deterrent. I don't think everybody knows if they're lying or not.
I have one other thing. As long as the purpose of this is to send a message, we passed a resolution for 96 and West End Avenue. And the DOT, there's a lot of talk about putting a blind stance there. And the DOT just issued a report on blind stances. Utility in the city, and it doesn't seem to meet 96 and West End didn't seem to meet the criteria. But they set up for blind stances.
I think it's a great location for blind stands for a few reasons.
Right, well, they agree.
But they still haven't acted on our signal changes for 97
Well, not
and
just
96.
signal changes, but we were also proposing.
The islands.
Things, islands,
Yeah.
curve extensions.
Yeah.
So we could put that in here, funding for islands and curve extensions.
You want to, I mean, that sends a message, but we shouldn't have to do that. That's something that
So
we asked
Colleen
for and
and
asked
agreed
for.
that,
and
she agreed on that.
I thought she did.
But that's what, haven't we said that
Hang on,
this
yeah.
whole thing is kind of pointless apart from sending a message? So if we're
call that?
using it to send a
Safety
message,
improvements for 96th and West End, including islands on the south alignment,
Yeah.
along the south
And
curve.
And curve extensions.
I mean, I don't know that it says number, isn't that number 1?
So number 1 is for the whole district.
Want to
I mean,
single it
what
out?
we're
In
doing
number
is-
one talks about the Nelson Nygaard study and 96 and West End.
Well, then I would say in number 1, including.
Well, we're calling out 96.
Do you want to call it out in number 1?
Sure.
Or the Columbus Circle, do you want to add that to number 1 or make that a separate one?
Well, I know when Colleen comes back, I'd like to ask her how they're gonna start it, because she agreed. I remember she agreed that they were gonna do
He agreed to look, he didn't say, we'll do it. You know,
it. I tried to sit straight in there. I'd like her to do it, it'd be great.
You might send a clearer message on number 1. If you had, you picked the 5 intersections.
Yeah.
And just said, starting with these, and the next year you can change to different 5 or
Yes.
whatever.
Number
As
1
opposed to, it's pretty great.
On
But
streets,
their response to number 1 is going to be, we have the money, we can do this. But your point is. these
on
are
street
problematic
safety,
corners.
safety improvements specifically, or for example,
Don't you have a bullet point list of intersections that you want to do this on?
I think we do.
I thought you did.
Yeah.
Just copy and paste whatever's in your most recent letter.
and that's on a long list of things that we are.
Right, so pull out the ones that relate to number 1, put them into a list of, these 5 intersections that you say 96th and West End, the channels and the islands. And
Yeah, that'll feature very
in
prominently.
Amsterdam, it's something else. And
Yep, yep.
Now, I haven't updated that for a while.
That what?
The list of intersections with the most crashes and injuries. Ideally, we'd update it. It's a matter of someone having
Yeah, well,
time.
we've asked them for things at certain intersections already. I
Yeah.
think that's what Mark's referring to.
Another thing I would add to the list is training.
Howard.
Oh, I would just track the resolution they adopted. I don't remember it all.
So that's gonna go in the capital, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna call that the Columbus Circle Safety Improvement.
Yeah. If I were you, I'd move that ahead of your number 2. Because we start seeing,
yes. All right.
The second paragraph is number 1. Work will include the reconfiguration.
That's in,
Is that a playground thing?
That's the street field house on Riverside Park. How did that get in here with that? That's park, that's slipping.
I think somebody put it in. I don't think that's ours.
That's not ours.
This should be.
I think that's from
Cross that.
Yep. I'm gonna start letting it come down.
On number 3, this came up before, and there's so much noise pollution. There has to be a better way.
Yes, I noticed so much more honking lately.
It's out of control.
And
So
instead
I'm
of people
very
doing a
much
quick
against-
little honk, they sit on the horn.
And the number of sirens.
That I do have a problem.
So there has to be a more high-tech way to enable visually impaired people.
Have you noticed the proliferation of helicopters over this district now? It never was this bad. It's not just Fridays and Sundays anymore now. It's all the time.
I would be in favor of changing 3 to assisting visually handicapped people in quiet manner or a non-audible manner or something along those lines.
You know, how it's using this one, but I think that what you're really saying is that you don't have a proposal that works.
Correct.
Number 3 as written doesn't work.
So I would take it off.
So take it off. And
Well, we have the audibles like we just agreed to for the lighthouse. We're gonna ask DOT to put them in on their new corner now.
Mm-hmm.
60 foot. It's a slight little beat when the light is changing. That's what we're talking about.
It is.
Yeah.
But
But when you live right there, it can be extremely annoying.
Well,
The one I hear, you can't really hear from too far away.
And that's the problem. Is that once you've got sirens and helicopters dead.
Oh, forget it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, they have been a lot more heavier the last couple of months.
They are unbelievable.
Well, they had 5 of the
They
ones
have
from
to get in touch
the
with
Air Force,
Congressman
not the Air
Nadler. He had a
Force.
task force on this.
Yeah.
Do we know what helicopters they are? Are they police or news or?
The fact that they're mostly on Friday and Sunday tells me they're shuttling people to and from Teterboro or something like that. They're not just traffic.
So they're not sitting, they're just going back and forth.
The one from city, it was sitting right above my building. It was fun.
I think more people are complaining about this now, so we may want to get in touch with Congressman Nadler's office. He's been one of the leaders on aircraft noise.
So one other thing I would want to add is training for officers in the 2 precincts to use radar. And that might be a staffing issue. We don't know what the issue is, but if my understanding is that the 2-4 had, out of over 100 officers, fewer than 3 are trained to use radar, which means that there's virtually no enforcement of
That was a
speed.
staffing issue. Remember we talked about that?
Is it trained or sent out to enforce radar?
Well, it's both. If they're not trained, then they can't be sent out to enforce. And the idea that only 2 out of over 100 are trained is a huge issue.
But that was, I believe, when the gentleman was here, we talked something like that. I think that was a staffing issue. You know, he only had those 3, you had those 3 trained. They came, they only do it in the morning, maybe in the afternoon.
Staffing in terms of being able to operate the machine. So he's not, but let's at least get them trained so that they can.
All of them to be trained.
Do you think that's a budget issue or something else?
We're saying this document is to call attention to.
Okay.
Yeah.
But again, that sends the message.
Yeah, yeah, because we don't have speed enforcement
So
on the Upper
put
West
some
Side.
language together for that item?
That's a good point. That's good.
Yeah.
Increased radar training for 2.0 and 2.4 precinct, is that what you're?
Yeah.
Speaking of language, let's say funding to train either all officers or all patrol officers who have the right permits to operate, to be certified to operate.
Radar beam.
Funding for increased radar training or
Increased training to, for,
Funding to train patrol officers to be certified to use radar and speed enforcement.
utilize.
To be certified to use certification. They have to be able to stand up in court and say, I know how to use it.
Radar training.
I turned it on the right way.
Okay. It's not an issue for the Central Park precinct, I assume, right?
Do we have to rank these in order?
That's
Yeah.
here, that's usually, yeah.
Right, and then
And then
the
it's
whole.
here, and it's gonna be a lot of work.
Right.
But you want to be able to say my first priority is that.
So right now, our first is, what is currently number one?
In the streetscape safety improvements, but we're going to list actually list the intersections, and we're going to make sure that we mention the treatments at 96 and West End.
Columbus Circle would be a separate one.
Yeah, separate. Absolutely.
I'd make that work. Back to the resolution.
And yeah, make number 2. Or we're going to ask about. So you would take it out?
Yes.
Really?
The last thing we need are more north.
Even if it helps hearing.
I think we should come up, I think we should come up with a way to help them that doesn't annoy the vast majority of people. They contribute to.
For number 2, 3.
I mean, what do you?
there aren't many senses left.
What?
It's all the ambient noise around them.
They're visually impaired. When I've been at a corner that's equipped with these, I hear a little.
Mm-hmm.
You think that is heard by people upstairs?
Why can't they just send why can't it send a signal to their phone? Then their phone would.
If they're a senior, I'm not sure they're.
Yeah, that's a little high tech for. Yeah, it's something we need to know more about.
Yeah, there has to be a better way than just
But
having
somebody from the
everyone.
lighthouse at our last
For all we
meeting.
know, these may be like.
Yes.
Yeah,
maybe.
I just don't know enough.
I don't think they're really noise polluting. Not like someone blaring their horn or these helicopters. I mean, this is life-saving
It's
stuff.
just
for
all the
some
ambient
people.
noise around them.
But that's why when you're right at the intersection, their ears are
I've heard
their
that.
ears are trained for that. They really are, because the other senses are dull. So that's really acute.
I have seen. Yes.
Let's talk to the lighthouse before we remove that.
Yeah. Okay, I agree.
Right, and they did that. Yeah.
Number 5 is
Number 4 may come out because it may be far along now. 5.
Number 5 is proceeding.
Is it?
I think south of 7th. Whether there's one in north
Actually, that says currently, regardless of time of day and amount of motor traffic, isn't it all the time banned now?
north of 7th.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe that needs to be reworded in any event.
This is a bit of a nod. capital issue, but has anyone seen the traffic in the park on the east side when there are cars there? It's the pedicabs, the cars, the bikers, and the runners all mashed together. It's a chaos. Yeah. I think it's just south of 72nd is the worst.
So we've added plus dummy cameras to number 7 and 8.
Number 6.
I don't think that's up to the state now, but some may have become super bad and others may have been improved.
I think the curb cut screwed up the cameras. Yeah. I think the cameras. We could get dummy cameras, that would be great.
So make 7 6, make 8 7, and make the curb cuts 8. Is that what you're saying? 7 becomes 6, 6 becomes 8, and 8 becomes 7.
We wanted, have we added the fake cameras as a separate one?
No, that's part of the install the red light and the
Who represents?
So we're adding in text to those two saying including dummy cameras.
dummy camera.
We're gonna put it in the header as well to call attention.
Front speed cameras, input in parentheses, including dummy cameras. Is that what you wanted? Like
Yeah.
All right, and we're going to do that.
Yeah, I'm interested in maybe like.
What is
9 is something that they now have the technology to do, which would be, and I don't even think that's a funding issue, but we have it in there because we want it done. There are traffic lights adjacent to schools where they can adjust this. If they have the ability, Colleen told us when we were out, by time of day, they can do it right from their headquarters, and they can change to give more time or less time to certain streets that have.
I know we have a
lot of
conversation
pedestrian.
Central Park West time to the light so that you can go uptown more.
I'm not talking about that kind of time. I'm talking about giving more time, like 77th and Columbus. Remember that problem we had with all the schools there and traffic was turning. So during school hours, like when we're letting out between 2 and 3 or 2 and 4, we can increase the time for 77th and decrease it for Columbus at that intersection. Things that's what this means.
Right, it's just accommodating the traffic flow.
Yeah. They could actually improve the safety of 96 and West End by doing a certain change by time of day there. And I hope we brought that up to DFC. I don't know why they're dragging their feet on 96 and West End. The ones that go to the highway, they should see a priority for them. Okay. I'm adding the pilot for improved bus service. And the funding to train officers on the radar, to be certified on radar. Where are we putting that? That's oh, shoot, that's expense. Okay, so let me put that on expense page. So we only have 1 on expense, so we should make that number 2 on expense, yes?
Yeah, I don't argue.
All right.
Yeah.
They have time.
Yeah.
Do we want to put the completion of the Amsterdam protected lane to 59?
Not that bad.
I think that's in the works. What they say, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's about the priority. Yeah, I think that's
All right.
I have a question for you. So I was harassing a beer delivery guy who was double parking and
Not the beer delivery guy, the harassing guy.
well, I'm both of them. And in this particular instance, the parking bay that was part of the bike lane that he was double parked outside of, completely empty. And I said, why aren't you parking in the parking bay when it's empty like that? I said, blah, 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 blah. And he said, there's a fire hydrant on the curb. And so I'm at risk of a ticket if I park in the protected bike separation area. Even though I'm, one lane removed from the curb. And I found that hard to believe, but
I thought you were going to say because you didn't want to be penned in by someone else double
that's
one.
almost always the answer to the correction truck guy. Yeah. But this was a guy from, and so he was, anyway, so is that correct?
I would think that it wouldn't be illegal parking.
So being a lane removed from the fire hydrant still makes it.
I believe so, but I think that was the reason.
Because it blocks the visibility of the hydrant.
85th and 84th on Columbus, cross hatching rather than parking spaces because of what they're using.
So I have this wacky theory that double parked vehicles create an imminent danger and cause crashes and cause injuries. And that's much more of a concern than fire hydrants, which on average are probably used once every 10 years. And we're so strict about making sure that cars aren't parked at a fire hydrant for 10 seconds, but we have trucks double parked throughout our district on
Actually,
a constant
if you're
basis.
parked at a fire hydrant and somebody's in the vehicle, that's okay because they know it can be moved as needed. It's only if it's
Yeah,
unoccupied.
but if trucks won't park by a fire hydrant, but they will double park, that's bad policy. And
I agree.
I think we're never going to change PD's view on that because they're so coded. But I think we as a committee should get both precincts in and talk about the scourge of, just have a separate meeting though about double parking and get Fairway here, get others here who are frequent problems, West Side Market. I've showed you guys, quite often I've been in front of Fairway and there are trucks double parked even though there's no one single parked. Right. So we've got a lot of no stopping loading zone areas in front of Fairway. They're not using that lane because they can double park, block one of 3 lanes on a very busy street at rush hour, not get bothered, but and causing dangers and issues with traffic.
Yeah, but to that point, Rick, one of the things that they do is that they actually use the loading zone as the place to offload as the staging area. Even though on Mother's Day, there's a guy from DOT who was up and down the avenues to every florist who was using the sidewalk as a staging area because on Mother's Day they need someplace to put all the things they can't all fit in the store, right? And they issue these incredible tickets, for every day of Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah.
So to your point, there's a real disconnect.
So I think it's two. Yeah, I think it's 2 related issues. One is just as a standalone issue, double parking is a real safety issue in our district and needs to be addressed as a standalone issue. The second is that enforcement overall is completely out of whack with safety.
And to that point, I would like to get a representative from the fire department to come to a meeting of ours and ask them some very important questions about that. For instance, does the they have a computer or any kind of instrument in every fire truck that lets them know where every fire hydrant is? Do they know that in advance, so that if one were blocked, they could immediately put the hose around or
through, I've seen.
and stop in the appropriate place for that fire?
Yeah.
That would be good to know, wouldn't it?
I don't think the issue is, it's not either or. I think the issue is to beef up enforcement of something that causes a lot of unsafe conditions and really impacts traffic.
Yeah.
Adversely.
But
And
Rich,
so I think
the
that there needs
downside,
greater enforcement on
the
that.
downside is if you take what you just said, you think double parking is more dangerous than parking in front of a hydrant, would we then want to give someone like Fresh Direct the okay to park in front of hydrants all day? I don't think
I
we
would prefer, and I think this is it's two separate issues, because I don't see us changing parking in front of hydrants, but given the choice, I would much rather Fresh Direct be parked in front of hydrants
It's a
than parked
resource allocation.
than double park.
And Rich is merely pointing out the irony that something that doesn't have any safety component is enforced more
I
rigorously.
think double parking is terrible for a host of reasons. Throughput, pollution, visibility, you name it. There's a whole host of reasons.
But if your only solution is to step up enforcement, that's not a real solution, because you need, the reason people are double parking, except for the instances that you're bringing up, where sometimes on fairway there's a space and they don't use it, which is egregious. But for the most part, the double parking we're seeing is, and that I see in my block, is because there's no other place to go.
No, the double.
Yeah, but that's again why I think we as a committee need to have a dedicated meeting about double parking. And one issue is enforcement by giving tickets. Another issue is enforcement by saying, just move, you can't be here. And then another is looking at how we're allocating space. And if we're giving up space that's needed for deliveries and forcing trucks to double park and creating throughput and safety issues, then that's on us, and that's bad policy.
People can have free long-term storage of their private.
Or short term, on Broadway, it's more
What we're
metered.
talking about is metered.
Yeah.
And on the avenues, it's metered.
But
side streets where my side street gets blocked off.
But we don't want trucks making deliveries on the side streets. We want them on the
They're
avenue.
always making deliveries. UPS, FedEx, they're always.
So when we asked DOT for loading zones on Amsterdam after the bike lane, did anybody here really believe that a truck making a delivery on the west side of the street would park on the east side in a loading zone and then bring their stuff across the street?
No.
We couldn't, right? We asked.
But we can ask.
We need more loading zones, and
And we also
you know
need
what
them,
throughput
we
is
need
like
them
on
on
Amsterdam.
Central Park West and West End Avenue.
affecting air quality too.
So a related issue, why do we have street cleaning, especially on Broadway at rush hour, when we most want?
Oh, it's not street cleaning, it's rush hour regulated.
Right.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's created under.
Okay, good.
That's what it is.
Good. Okay, good. I think it has the street cleaning sign.
It'll have, you read the same.
Yeah. Okay.
You have that on Columbus in the AM rush and Amsterdam in the.
Oh, good. 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 Okay.
I wanted to try to get something on next month's agenda. So do it now so that we can notice the community. And that is to begin a discussion of what to do about Broadway. Towards asking DOT to get us some solution for pedestrians and cyclists. Well, Rich is-
It's always been by far the most dangerous north-south corridor.
Pedestrians because of the subway and bus.
But it's not just pedestrians, it's for
I
motorists.
understand that.
It has the most crashes, the most injuries, and the most injuries for all three types of reported people, of motorists, cyclists.
All of Broadway or what? Between 93
Well,
and
as a district, all of Broadway, by block, I think at most intersections, if you're to look at any cross street, the most dangerous intersection will be Broadway. So it's not
Yeah, but
a
what
specific.
Broadway? Between 96 and 72nd?
All of the above.
I think he's saying the whole business.
Yeah, the whole.
And it's so bad that DOT has actually designated the priorities area for traffic.
Well, it's because it also intersects three other avenues. It runs a diagonal in places and causes a different kind of traffic movement. One
But
of the
it's
things,
not just-
But it's not just that.
But those are clearly trouble spots.
The basic concept of Broadway was laid out in the 1950s and hasn't been looked at cohesively since then.
And it's a 6-lane highway not to mention 2 parking.
So can we put that on the, is that a capital thing of getting DOT to look at
We
it?
don't know what next month is up at Douglas Circle. It's likely to have that issue, the 800-pound gorilla on the agenda.
One thing you might want to think about in that vein is between 96 and 106, there's been recent changes in the way the lanes have been marked and so forth. And so one way to sort of raise that issue about Broadway might be to see if they DOT has data about
Like the left turn lane approaching 96.
And they actually get rid of that, the leftmost lane with some of those blocks.
Yes.
And to see if that has had any measurable effect on safety in those blocks.
Yeah.
And
I think everything's worth looking at. When they changed Broadway south of 59 to one lane road, that have a appreciable effect.
Yeah.
So-
Again, this is more or less been the same since 1950.
And you know,
This is north
left turn
down
indicators,
to
nobody's even sure what's legal and what isn't legal.
about 79.
So what do you mean?
And then this is south.
Penny is
Outdoors?
no, it's cathedral towers because it's they're giving us they make room because we're having DOT make their presentation, which they did several months ago. Remember 110th Street Bike Lane and Douglas Circle? We're holding it in that neighborhood.
Are we going to get a preview or are we going to see it?
I hope we would.
You said November the 14th. Right?
Whatever the next
Regular schedule.
Schedule board meeting.
No, transportation.
Transportation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but keep in mind, before that, we're going to have the Windfish meeting. So 100, that's that's a changing target, unfortunately. I think the places, the day of that meeting has changed 3 times already. But
So does it make sense to put Broadway on the agenda also?
I just think that's a big discussion, and I think it would get short shrift.
Should we make it
let's
December?
Make it clear what we're asking for, and this is a question we can. Are we asking for DOT to look at this and come up with proposals, or do we want to come up with something that we would submit to them as a proposal? If it's the former, we could sort of do that. I think you could probably get consensus. Hey, DOT, take a look at this and come back.
Yeah, I think just like we did with 96 and North Avenue, offer a couple of suggestions. You might like this, you might like that, but give us your ideas for making decisions around priorities.
Do we want? How do we want to start? Do we want to start with that? Do we want to start with a community meeting to get input from the community? What?
I was thinking maybe we should do the community meeting first.
So should we set December as the community meeting to start talking about Broadway, and invite? We could talk for 5 minutes now about who we'd want to invite to the December meeting.
Before we do that, it depends on how much guidance you want to give to the DOT. If you merely want to request the DOT to come up with a plan, the DOT could do the community input. It's a question of what you want to do.
And the community.
I agree, and that was my question: is what do we want to do, and how do we want to do it?
So is this technically an outgrowth of the Broadway task force that we're talking about here? That's what it sounds like.
That's what you know. I don't know what they're up to.
I think we're meeting again on October 25th. Is
I
that
think it's
right?
canceled.
Well, the October 4th was canceled.
Anyway, I'm not sure if there are any.
I think we're on solid ground asking DOT to look at Broadway, ask them what's working, what's not working.
Okay, but do you want to give, how much guidance do you want to give them? None, a little, a lot?
I mean, I'm thinking of, I think a resolution is more powerful. And that's people's attention. So I want this to be a resolution.
Maybe it could be along the lines of the Columbus Circle, where we gave them some guidance, but ultimately left it up to them.
Right.
Well, so I think we are meeting on the 25th, the task
I have no
force.
idea.
Roberta's last email about it said we're meeting on the 25th. So one question for us is, should this be in conjunction with the task force or should this be independent? Another question for us is, should we ask DOT to do it or should we call on the community to get input from the community?
I think if it's general enough, you don't need community input. I think if it's specific, you do need community input. So if you would just want to get the ball rolling, you can say that this is a major corridor. There's a lot of issues regarding it, and we would like your thoughts on how this could be improved. And changes could include, as we did with the Columbus Circle resolution, X, Y, and Z, but ultimately we're looking for a proposal from you.
And then the community input could be reactive.
Right. Community input is the more I think about it, if you just have a blank slate, you're going to be there. I just think it's not going to be very helpful. I think community input is much more helpful and focused if you have a proposal. Then they can work with that and react to that. I don't know what you think of that.
I agree.
Yeah.
So how radical a proposal would we be looking for?
Well, we could give them a target. You know, like, remember your target?
Apparently you've got something radical in mind, don't you?
So,
How many
well,
lanes-
I mean, I'm on the
traffic would you like to
I'm on the
avoid?
task force, and I've thought about the extremes. And one extreme would be to take real moderate steps, like maybe, and this might not even be the extreme, but maybe ban left turns from Broadway, or maybe just make it so that if you're making a left turn, you have to wait for the light. You know, something incremental. Well, or something extreme would be to get rid of all private traffic on Broadway, or to get rid of northbound traffic. And any of these issues,
Get rid of northbound traffic,
Well, they
knowing
do.
how bad Amsterdam is now?
I'm saying, you know, if we're looking at really
want an
making an
air
impact, that
quality study
I think we'd have to talk through any of these issues. But if we're thinking really radical, there are some really radical things that could be done. I'm not saying that we should do those. I'm saying if we're thinking of the spectrum of what could be done on Broadway, there's a huge spectrum.
Yeah, just make it all parkland. How about that?
Nobody's proposing that.
You want to talk radical?
But we could set a target. We could say, whatever you give us, we want you to cut the injuries and deaths in half. That's it. There you go.
Something in.
Does your data show you the direction and or cause of those?
It does not show direction.
No.
Cause for about half of the crashes, it gives a contributing factor. The other half, it just lists as unknown. And even the contributing factor,
Either, right?
they might have better.
I think seem to recall we asked Sergeant Montgomery at a previous meeting, and she seemed reluctant to give us, or she didn't have.
And it could be both. She's never been forthcoming about information. And to
Would an elected official be able to get this information if they asked?
they couldn't have any worse luck than I've had.
You know, the more I think about it, I was saying community involvement with a blank slate is going to go all over the place. I think even community board or transportation committee involvement with having a blank slate is going to be all over the place. The more I think about it, is a resolution like the Columbus Circle resolution, which gives suggestions that say, hey, DOT, this is in your ballpark. You come up with something, we'll react to it. That's my sense that that is probably the most efficient use of
our main
everyone's time.
priority is to
Increase safety.
Right.
By half.
Yeah, we could say it.
Yeah.
And
But
I mean, that'll get them to be thinking.
Would DOT tell us? They don't have this data. This is NYPD data, right?
Well, my understanding is that the data originates from PD. PD sends it up to Albany, and then DOT gets it from Albany 6 months later. So DOT does get data. I think it's better data than we have access to from PD's website. My understanding is that it's very delayed and they're getting it. I think we could potentially request it. They might just steer us back to the PD open data.
The specific numbers are less important than a mandate for them.
Yeah,
They're familiar with this.
exactly.
On changing, what changes could be made to make this this avenue significantly safer.
Yeah, and let's task them with it, make it a big enough number that they have to think big, and then we can get.
Well, they have done one thing at 79th and Broadway. And they've done something at 96 as well, the two streets that lead to the Henry Hudson Parkway. They've made some no-turn regulations for that traffic signal. 96 and Broadway, which requires more people to go 96 and
And these are good changes, but again, this hasn't been looked at comprehensively since the 1950s. Have them take a look. We could say this is no good and move on, but I think it's worth asking.
No, the left-hand with the malls, the
There's
left-hand
just been
turns.
more people at both of those
I've heard the
locations
arguments.
since
There's not enough space for cars to queue and all of that. But those turns, I don't think anybody knows whether it's safe to go or not.
Oh, those turns.
There's not any
No,
wait
they
for
don't.
red before proceeding, or
Well, it's, it's a little bit of a combination.
how many
of
years
both.
we've been asking for that?
Well, that turn signal
see
there,
what-
that
No.
they put there, it's a combination of pedestrians not paying attention. And sometimes it's the drivers, because when they see the light, they just sit there. And
I
people are behind there just blowing them.
When they were talking about the changes at 96 and Broadway, many of us went up and we just stood at the fence on the right where the subway is, and we watched people's habits in both the AM and the PM peak. In the AM peak, when getting to work is very important, people were taking insanely unsafe routes to get to the subway. But in the PM peak, when you're going home, much more attention to safety. Because there was no deadline to get home. But there was a deadline.
They wanted to get to work.
But one thing I noticed though, ever since they built that new station, as opposed to the night, all of a sudden we have more people coming out of nowhere as opposed to the older station.
So DOT has designated Broadway as a priority corridor.
Yeah.
We should ask them, what have you done so far? And then
Well, I think we should be really. Well, here's my question to you to wrap it up because the meeting has gone on a long time. Do you want it on the agenda for the next meeting? If it's a general resolution, DOT, you need to look at this and you need to come up with a plan that, in your opinion, is going to reduce injuries and crashes.
We know DOT is going to be at that meeting since they're presenting at that meeting. So
then
we
yes.
can come up with some language that we can give to them and say, these are some of the things we'd like you to look at to make
Come
Broadway
up with a
safe.
resolution.
And we'd also like some better statistics on Broadway, on the crashes and the costs of these. I think, but I think next month. Yes.
But I think this is a meeting because we're just asking for a general plan from them. Nothing.
By the way, in the interim between now and next meeting, their team has asked us, it came up at the last meeting, with the move of the Lighthouse Guild and what they want, and Amsterdam Houses and Amsterdam Additions asking us to look at 3 possible relocations for the city bike stand. We have to set up a meeting to go out, and they would like to come with us and look at these possibilities. And Colleen may or may not come with us. I don't know yet. So we need to set up that, and we can do that by email, see when people are available, because we've been here a long time.
Yeah, it's neither here nor there. That has nothing to do with the Lighthouse. It's a separate issue.
Yes, but it was something that they asked.
Yeah, they raised this. Yeah.
It came out.